coming back again with another commentary. In fact, this time, this is a short monologue, and we will be leading into an open panel with a few guests of ours to discuss this very topic, the rise of the black male simp culture that is rising in the Western world in particular. I've done a video on this already, but I kind of covered it from a bracket point of view, and then came to an epiphany that it's actually affecting us all in the West. In the past, after I made that video, someone left a comment kind of describing a completely different definition to what a simp was, and so there was a kind of a debate as to why it should be promoted or something like that. But again, I'm going to come on here to address it straight on. The definition that we use today is definitely different from what it was in the past. Words evolve, we know that, and it's definitely important to clarify what I am referring to as a simp and what really generally is being used to define a simp today, and then in particular what a simp is in the black culture, in the black experience, because then that would sort of give you a premise as to where I'm taking this story. Okay, so when it comes to the definition, but then the old school term for a simp, a man that did the opposite for simps to a player or a pimp. He's not a womanizer, he values monogamy and eventually marriage. But that's the old term. That's pretty much an easy way to say, oh, you know, that guy, you know, he's a simp, he's already cuffed up, he's already cupcaking. A simp is an internet slang term describing someone who performs excessive sympathy and attention towards another person, typically someone who doesn't reciprocate the same feelings. And then you've got the Urban Dictionary defines a simp as someone who does way too much for a person they like. Okay, clarifying what that definition means, because some of you want to play semantics. Vote on whether it's familiar to most people. So this was the top definition being used as to what people familiarize themselves with it today. Simp is someone who does way too much for a person they like. You know, example, Brian, the simp. I bought her a car and a whole ass house, and we were not even dating. These are examples, and I think most people, are very aware of that term already and associate it with, these examples. We can't play those games, but the few that want to confuse the term and make it into something else, let's clarify, let's get on with it, okay? We're moving on from that. Now, my definition of a simp in the black Western community is based on promoting motherhood in the community over fatherhood, promoting womanhood over manhood. The patriarch is being dismantled while the matriarch is being promoted. And I defined it again in my previous video, but for those who want to join the panel, we're going to address it head on. Okay, that's where things start to fall apart, when we place the nurturing and less physical role, or the weaker vessel, to lead a movement. You're already defeated in a very patriarchal world if you leave your women to lead the movement. And people will say, well, of course men it's their role to protect and provide, but it's not very clear in this woke progressive form of feminism and gender roles being dismantled. We don't realize we're playing into the agenda. We're playing into the dismantling of a traditionally necessary union. When you put the men on the back burner, you're already defeated in a world ruled by men. The only way it could work in the way people dream of it, the black woman is the god, she's the mother earth goddess. This is unhealthy. In fact, it turns your own women off. we're playing into the hands of the enemy because you're already defeated. They would say a lot of things, but it's not how they react to it. It doesn't link up. What I'm saying is, a woman could say it should be 50-50. You should let a woman take lead when she needs to. You should let a woman speak out when she needs to. But a lot of the times they say those things, but it doesn't reciprocate into what they prefer in their family, in their community, in their relationships. So in my personal opinion, a lot of the views that men hold are more blunt, more realistic, more deliberate when they talk to other men. But when a woman says a lot of the things she says, she might believe that's how she thinks and feels, but it comes from a very much emotional, filtered sense in order to appease the listeners, because it makes it sound as if she knows exactly what she prefers, but in the long run it doesn't reciprocate. She doesn't support you because you bow down to her knees. She doesn't reciprocate the same feeling in the long term if you adhere to everything she wants, if you attempt to please every feminine trait that you exude. You actually force her to take on your role when you place your sister, your mother, your spouse to lead the quote-unquote struggle in a man's world. You will alternatively get churned out by your own women first, and then by the outsiders. Accountability for all is being disorientated in this community, in this mind frame that only us as men have an issue. What kind of healthy discourse is that when it's always your fault? Is your father's fault for not being in the picture? Really? Well, how was it ensured? A lot of the times, sometimes it is the man's fault. But then, how are you aware of the context in which you were made into your family, into your community, where the men aren't even present? A lot of these men are themselves polygamous. They don't adhere to the sort of the Western structure of marriage, and they choose to spread their seed and claim that they're pro women, but in fact they're actually breaking down the family structure. That is a simp. A man who is a womanizer is also a simp. Not the nice guy. That's the general sense. But when I talk about this perspective, this approach to the black experience in the UK, in Europe, in America, that's what I see. Those who appease the ears of the feminine vessel. And instead of adhering to your own commitment, your own diligence to provide, protect and provide, what do you go around doing? Spreading your seeds, being a womanizer, knowing when to say yes, just so you can get in and give in. The fact that the term submission is so triggering within our communities is evident that it's a problem for our community alone, because you see examples of other cultures not really falling over that term, because what else does it mean other than to submit to the type of man you're with, and you should only be with men that you are willing to submit to. It's not that when a man is doing his role, that's when you submit. Well, you shouldn't be with him in the first place if you had to set up options for it. A man's role is to provide and to protect. A woman's role is to find a man that does these things and form that union, start a family and assist him. It's not no 50-50. I don't know which culture that's from, but from previous panels I've been in, that was the argument. That it's an African culture to share, to put the woman in lead as well, to do this, to you don't know what you're talking about. If that's the case, you're not African either. You have no idea how cultures were, and you're just making up history as you go. So we're gonna have this open panel. This was a pre-recorded monologue. I might have touched it up, edited it because I needed it to flow nicely, but I hope to have an open discussion with people. to figure out what is going on. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in. So you guys have seen the intro to this show today. The panel will be opening up soon. And I do have a clip I would like to share with you. It's been circulating throughout the social sphere, really based on this topic again. And it's showing how women are also waking up and realizing that, wait a minute, are we being lied to by our own men as well? There are men who took lead, Steve Harveys, the Derek Jacksons, who have convinced us that there is a way to support the woman by sort of making her lead in everything. And that's a real problem. And that's why I kind of classify this as a sort of simp phenomenon. It is a simp culture. This is the clip here. I'm about to share it with you. Some of you may have seen it already, but it's a symptom of what is going on in this, culture we live in today, especially in the Black community.
Do you know Gloria Steinem?
Tune in.
Here, let me give you a hint.
Thank
So I was reading an online article to which I came across something that I didn't know about Gloria. It talks about Gloria's new book, My Life on the Road, recounting her life, journeys, and travels, but look at the bottom paragraph. What is often missed or mischaracterized, however, is the work she did as a CIA agent. Steinem was a spook. Confused, I decided to dig a little deeper. Black feminism, the CIA, and Gloria Steinem. What follows is a fact sheet about Gloria Steinem's operations against the various social and political movements in America, particularly her role in creating a hateful and virulent strain of Black feminism that attacks Black men while partnering with the white establishment. Steinem first came across the radar of Black men when she put a book called Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman by Michelle Wallace on the cover of Miss Magazine, to which she controlled. Let's read on. The book was written by a Black feminist and activist, quote-unquote, named Michelle Wallace, who came out of nowhere. She was in her early 20s, yet she was being touted as the leader of Black feminism. In the book, Wallace called abolitionists like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth ugly and stupid for supporting Black men. She called Black revolutionaries chauvinist macho pigs and advised Black women to go it alone. Go it alone? Do it alone? I don't know. But peep what Gloria said! Gloria Steinem said that Wallace's book would define the future of Black relationships, and she pushed hard to make sure the book received massive publicity. Define the future of Black relationships? What's the bottom line? The bottom line is the so-called Black feminist movement was created and manipulated by the CIA from the very beginning. The only difference between Black revolutionaries and Black feminists on this issue is that Black revolutionaries know they were infiltrated and manipulated, but Black feminists are still unwilling to admit that they were infiltrated and manipulated, largely because they are highly invested in the hateful brand of Black feminism. It is now a central part of the culture of Black women, and this fact has led to the destruction of the Black Revolution and the complete distortion of Black relationships, and the CIA had a direct hand in creating this situation. So, Black woman, Gloria Steinem, your American journalist, feminist, social political activist, and CIA agent, she was used to cause disunity in the Black family through the use of feminism. Remember that book we read earlier, the one on the Black Myth by Michelle? She said that would be the future for Black relationships. Nothing positive in that book was written about the Black men. They were
So if you guys have heard that, I'm sure that some of you have come across that video already. It's been doing rounds for the last 2 days. Essentially, yeah, she kind of paid attention to a pattern that was happening throughout the 60s and 70s. When it comes to, hey, Vincent, hi, thanks for tuning in, and everyone else tuning in. Hopefully you saw that message as well. It's very clear that there has been a motive and almost an agenda to sort of dismantle the family structure, the Black family structure in the Western world, and African Americans being sort of the first sort of a prototype in which it succeeded. It succeeded by dividing the family, where the mother, the women in the community, had to ostracize their own men in order to lead it. And that's unfortunate. And as you can see, 2 generations off, it has achieved that. And it's happening everywhere else in the West. If we look at the continent, they're still very cultural and traditional. And what we see now is a real problem. In the West now, we're very influenced, and it's affecting other cultures too. It will continue to do so until people sort of fight back and what do they call it? The counterculture effect. Groups of people political movements turning away from what is occurring today, the misinformation, the critical race theory. All of these concepts are affecting our young people and essentially preparing them for disaster. And you see all these platforms online kind of providing an alternative frame. All these big platforms, well, they've been emerging and growing because people wanted to hear the truth. The media has been feeding this for far too long, and people realize that this is not our innate nature to be divided based on quote unquote gender roles or what men are meant to do. The patriarchy, all these attacks has affected especially the Black community, and people have monetized it and benefited from it a lot. So the issue just continues. For some of you who missed the first section of the monologue, I might repeat it again, but essentially we have this problem and it will continue if we don't solve it. Now, I've left an open panel to offer people who may disagree with my views on this, being that, is there a culture of Black men who pander to a narrative that actually splits us up? I'll give a very good example. Most recently, Derek Jackson. I mean, he was caught out for cheating, but that's one thing. But he spent 3-4 years on social media making millions. People don't realize that he did really well, successfully, just giving motivational speech and just giving the same narrative over and over again about how we need to take more responsibility as men, but not really taking accountability on what's on both sides. What is really going on? It's a profit. Yes, we've got the Steve Harveys, even the Hoteps. They play along with the same narrative too. And now the shift came when we saw this red pill sphere emerging throughout social media, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit. You see these niches of platforms that promote something that's always existed. This idea that red pill is not something new. It's not something nuclear. It's something that's always existed. It's just been rebranded to a term, maybe, for the newer generation to understand. But what we have today is a counterculture trying to push away from what society has turned into today. And yes, men are in the forefront of it because, of course, men are the ones who are being sort of pushed away from the natural role, as we are meant to be the providers, the protectors, the valuable members of society. But if you kind of disorient the mindset that a boy or a girl has when growing up, if you remove the father from the family, if you ostracize the men from your community, what do you expect to happen? You cannot replace the male figure. You cannot replace the male figure that easily. If we go back, people who read into history, some people don't. And what we notice is a pattern. It hasn't changed. And it will continue to occur the same way it has, a cycle. First, deterioration, men realizing that we've gone too far, and then there'll be conflict, and then there'll be confusion. And that's where we are now. We're at a pivot point. And social media has played that part too. It's been a catechism. It's been a buffer for this conversation. People like Kevin Samuels, Donovan Sharp, Rollo Tomasi. Some of you might be familiar with these names. Most of you probably don't know these names, but these are the individuals who play a big part into branding the traditional behavior and attitude that men should have. Rollo Tomasi especially wrote a book like 2 decades ago, I believe, or 15 years ago. And now his brand has become more popular because it's the period we live in today. Kevin Samuels just hit 1 million this week. 1 million subscribers from doing what? Speaking to the demographic that needed it the most. They hate on him. They give a reason for branding him as someone who is the enemy. But for some reason, there's truth being told. There's truth being told by all these voices, and people aren't turning away because it's in our nature to face the truth. Many detractors come around, but the problem continues, man. The problem continues. Does anyone want to join the panel now, or I could continue? I might show another clip just to give you an idea of what the topic is, but I should have the panel link would be shown above. Just click there and let me know when you're ready to go on. But this was the video I played for those of you who just came in. I'll replay one more time. It's been circulating throughout social media. It kind of gives a frame to understand where things started changing and the ulterior motives behind the breakup of the family in the West, and why we need to pay attention to where we're going now. But here we go. One more time for everyone.
Do you know Gloria Steinem? Here, let me give you a hint. So I was reading an online article to which I came across something that I didn't know about Gloria. It talks about Gloria's new book, My Life on the Road, recounting her life, journeys, and travels, but look at the bottom paragraph. What is often missed or mischaracterized, however, is the work she did as a CIA agent. Steinem was a spook. Confused, I decided to dig a little deeper. Black feminism, the CIA, and Gloria Steinem. What follows is a fact sheet about Gloria Steinem's operations against the various social and political movements in America, particularly her role in creating a hateful and virulent strain of black feminism that attacks black men while partnering with the white establishment. Steinem first came across the radar of black men when she put a book called Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman by Michelle Wallace on the cover of Miss Magazine, to which she controlled. Let's read on. The book was written by a black feminist and activist, quote-unquote, named Michelle Wallace, who came out of nowhere. She was in her early 20s, yet she was being touted as the leader of black feminism. In the book, Wallace called abolitionists like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth ugly and stupid for supporting black men. She called black revolutionaries chauvinist macho pigs and advised black women to go it alone. Go it alone? Do it alone? I don't know. But peep what Gloria said! Gloria Steinem said that Wallace's book would define the future of black relationships, and she pushed hard to make sure the book received massive publicity. Define the future of black relationships? What's the bottom line? The bottom line is the so-called black feminist movement was created and manipulated by the CIA from the very beginning. The only difference between black revolutionaries and black feminists on this issue is that black revolutionaries know they were infiltrated and manipulated, but black feminists are still unwilling to admit that they were infiltrated and manipulated, largely because they are highly invested in the hateful brand of black feminism. It is now a central part of the culture of black women, and this fact has led to the destruction of the black revolution and the complete distortion of black relationships. And the CIA had a direct hand in creating this situation. So, black woman, Gloria Steinem, your American journalist, feminist, social political activist, and CIA agent, she was used to cause disunity in the black family through the use of feminism. Remember that book we read earlier, the one on the Black Myth by Michelle? She said that would be the future for black relationships. Nothing positive in that book was written about the black men. They were
So, you just listened to that. How are you? Hello, everyone, for listening in.
Hey there, dude. Can you hear me?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Do you understand the topic at hand right now? Yeah. What do you think? So I believe there is a rise in sort of the black male simp culture in our community throughout the West. In the UK, America, Canada, there's a narrative being pushed, and you have men who also promote this and kind of sort of validate this idea that the men aren't really needed in the family, and to belittle the male position and to sort of promote womanhood. And what do you think about that?
So there's sort of two things I want to talk about that, because you've got the first part of it where, I'm going through history. I always think men were more of a simp back in the day, because if you look at the content that was put out there in terms of the music, the culture, you could argue black men were more simpish, depending on your definition of the word simp. You could say that because obviously men were the ones who were paying for dates, the men were the ones who were courting women. Let's be honest, premarital sex was seen as a bad thing. So all these things that we see now is that's simp, that's that though things back in the day, that's kind of what was accepted. Now we could argue about different time frame, different culture, but it's always funny that word simp. Whereas nowadays,
Yeah, that's why. Sorry, just to hold on. I would replay the monologue again, but essentially, I gave a definition of what the term simp is
right.
being used for today, and that's exactly what I kind of addressed in the beginning. Because I did make a video on this topic earlier, and well, like a few weeks ago, and I got responses, and people did mention this definition, the definition you gave right now, and essentially what you said was that simps are sort of men who do the regular monogamous actions that sort of lead to marriage and a loving family, right? But then the term simp now, what we've seen today on the internet has been described in a derogatory way. Men who excessively show their affection even when it's not given back to them, spraying their money into to just any random person on OnlyFans or on social media, showing some type of form of validation on a platform even when they don't believe the things they were saying. So like an example I gave, right?
I agree.
You get it?
No, I get it wholeheartedly. But what I'm trying to say is back then, that's what they would have done before they could even get sex. So a lot of things you're saying right now, basically a guy who's going to spend ridiculous amount of money and time and effort on a woman who's not going to reciprocate that love. Whereas I always think that was what happened back then. It just was seen as more of the standard. But I agree anyway. I think the definition of a simp for me is a guy who is basically doing too much for a woman who doesn't respect him, doesn't respect his time, is using him, and this guy is just completely, I don't know, he's in cloud cuckoo land and he believes that basically shit don't stink, all that kind of bullshit. That's what I think a simp is. A simp is somebody who does way too much for a woman who's not going to reciprocate at all and will jump over all these stupid hoops for no goddamn reason. So yeah, right. I do agree with it. It's just, I'm pretty sure back in the day, that's what a lot of guys had to do in order to get the pussy. It's just
I would address that real quick. Yeah, when it comes to that, you mentioned the past and how guys did it before, and that's essentially what chivalry, right? Guys who had sort of show their peacock feathers to prove to the lady that I'm for you, I'm in love with you, right? But then what I'm saying is today, it's not even it's beyond chivalry. It's more assuming that this is the way they could be validated. Even they might like confidence, or they're behind the screen, they do certain things. Slide into the DMs is a lot different from going to the lady's house to pick her up for a date, compared to what we see today, where people show some type of like cheap form of affection, commenting under a naked picture of a woman on Instagram, something like that. Those are levels of simpery I kind of place on a spectrum, right? But then the point I was making about simpery in sort of the culture we live in today is a narrative. So let's say a man who sort of sweet talks and kind of lies by providing a false narrative of what women should look for in a man in order to just sell books, in order to gain more viewers, because I'm saying what needs to be said just for popularity, just for validation. And we see that a lot on YouTube, and then we see that a lot between different movements when it comes to like the Hotep idea of the Black community, the mother being the queen, the head of the house, and kind of promoting kind of a falsehood of what the culture should be. So essentially that's me kind of rebranding the term for us, because what we see is a change in that language. There's an evolution of that word. There's not just a simple man as it was before, a man who just does the love and affection in when it comes to courting. Today it's an excessive amount of lust, an excessive amount of the need to be validated and not actually do much for themselves. There's nothing to gain from saying the things they say, because they're mostly lies. So if you understand that too,
I was going to say that last part is what I wanted to say. I said I would agree with you as long as the people like the Hoteps and the people like you quoted Derek Jackson, Steve Harvey, as long as if they don't believe what they're saying, I'll call them a simp. If they truly believe what they're saying, I won't call them a simp. I'll just say that they believe in something that probably most men don't believe in. That's all I say on that. But if they are lying and pandering, then yeah, I will call them or lies and panders. But yeah, that's where I would say the simping is.
They do, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like if you say that if they're caught out for lying or spreading falsehood by basically jeopardizing their character. For example, I've been following Umar for nearly 6 to 7 years, and I came across a few times where he slipped. He kind of showed himself being being a gambler, and also spending the money that was donated to him to strippers. And a lot of the times, that's the issue, is that they give you a narrative, and then later on they get caught out. But because they're feeding that narrative, Derrick Jackson can still make a lot of money. Steve Harvey can still make a lot of money, even though they spread lies. When you say certain things that obviously men don't agree with, when it comes to dating, 90-day rule, this, think like a man, this, they are deliberately false lies. If we expose them now, it's all there. The evidence is all there. So that's what I'm saying. That is, even if they lie, and we know that, they continue to make money from it, continue to gain influence and popularity from the demographic that sort of feed into the lies. And that's the issue we have today.
I hear you. And one thing I do want to sort of talk, and I don't want to talk too much, because I know we've got another guest on here.
Yeah, no worries.
I do feel as if the word simp has now been used too much, because there is men, want to have intimate relations with women. Women want to have relations with men. And I know with all these spaces, we're misconstruing a compliment or a form of interaction with the opposite sex, because at the end of the day, we do want to attract each other, and that's what we're here for. We're here to attract each other, to spread the race, or leave a legacy. A lot of times, simple things like that get confused. I know you said the spectrum. I'd be interested to hear what spectrum is and get into that. But a lot of times, I hear in a lot of things from a lot of guys, which is almost like it's gone too far because of what we think is an all-time high simpery, and now it's like any small thing, you're a simp. I'm like, that's not really true. Yeah, and that's why you say, Umar Johnson and they got caught out. Well, not really. That's what human beings do. That's how we're 7+ billion strong, because men and women came together under some auspices of relations to come together. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that's why I just think the word simp has been taken way too far now. Where it's just stupid. Everything's a simp. Everything's simp. It's like, are you serious?
Okay, you know what? I get your point very well when it comes to the term itself being almost a trigger word. I mean, it's banned on Twitch now, because essentially it's been excessively used to sort of insult guys who do things like pay Twitch users just because they're pretty. I get that, and the issue is I'm trying to disconnect from the general perspective and use the term for the narrative we're dealing with today in the Black community. Is that if we're not focused on building a family, and we're just giving one demographic, an idea that, oh, look, you don't need a man. When you hear that phrase, you're an independent woman, you do not need a man, and it's being told by other men, right? That perspective is dangerous. The reason why I use the term simp is to sort of trigger the idea that, look, these men are just pleasers. And yes, I get it's a natural sense, like men just do what they need to, they need to lie just to get in bed with a lady. But essentially, when you are a leader, when you are a voice on a platform, and you play that role just, to feed a narrative, that could be dangerous to us. And for example, I posted that video of the young lady who discovered sort of information that was necessary, that acknowledging that there was an agenda, there was a narrative that broke down the family. And I could use a different word to describe this situation we're dealing with today rather than simp, but it was needed to sort of give a perspective that, hey, if you just give a pleasing sort of narrative for women, and not to provide any structure, any support to lead on to a family, to get with the right person you need to get with. We have the growth of the Kevin Samuels, the Fresh and Fit, all these platforms that tell harsh truths. They don't sweeten it. They don't give it a pleasing idea, simply because women want to listen. Women want to know the truth. So you've got one perspective where we just want to tell you what you want to hear, versus we want to tell you the truth. It's going to hurt. It's going to sound rough, but this is what you need if you want real success. Right? So you know what, you can touch on the term on its own, but I get you. You understand where I'm going with this sort of conversation beyond the term simp, right? So yeah, that's fair enough. Do you want to chime in before someone else does? Do you want to say anything else?
Quite a bit actually. Quite a bit.
Right,
but
sure. Go on.
I'm gonna. That's what I said.
Second.
Let me just wait. Let me just hold off and let the other person.
Yeah, no worries.
I can't see the name.
Unstoppable Force.
Oh, so it was Unstoppable.
Yeah, it's Unstoppable Force. Yeah, right. I might able to reveal it. Show display names. Yeah, it should be showing.
Okay,
let me change the. Yeah, I still can't see it. Unstoppable Force. Are you on?
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? How you doing?
I'm
Good
doing
day.
good, man. Just
Yeah.
came back from work. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. So from this topic alone, do you have any perspective you would like to chime in on?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I just think, when it comes to, the word simp, I think that word, is very, first of all, there's no such thing as a simp, in my opinion. It's pseudoscience, and it just pertains to, content creators who have gone through certain experiences and watched certain movies and have formulated an opinion on what they need to do to be successful. For example, you've got people saying you need to make six figures, there's six figures a year to before you get into a relationship, or because I think Fresh and Fit, they said before you get into a relationship you need to be 35, make six figures and be in shape and had to have had sex with over 50 women.
Yeah.
That in itself is pseudoscience, and the reason why it's pseudoscience is because first of all, like, no one really will ever understand the brain of a woman. Like, these guys are talking like they understand women. The thing is, though, what I will say is, if you do think if you get all this money, and you become successful, that you're going to get girls, that's not true, because all you need to do is go look at escorts and prostitutes. They're having sex with guys that make a lot of money, and they're not getting attached to these guys. They're just doing it for the money. So what is going to happen is what these content creators are doing is quite dangerous. It's good, but it's also dangerous, because you have a lot of people that believe, if I get this degree, if I get this job, and I get in shape and I get all these things, but really it's mainly about the money. That's what everyone's shouting about. If I get all this money, I can get whatever girl I want. That's not true, because I just came back from a certain part of London, okay, where there's a lot of nice girls, and a lot of these girls are with guys that you can tell they like the guy. And when you look at the guy, you can tell he don't really make a lot of money. You can tell he's kind of bummy, he's kind of goofy, but she really likes him. And then when some other parts, you can see some women with guys that look like they have a lot of money, but you can just see it's just transactional. And when you get with someone who is only with you because you have money, it doesn't feel good. Now, when it comes to the simping, the word simping doesn't really make any sense in general, because nothing, because either way, when you get a girlfriend or wife, there's balance. You can't. A lot of these guys, they think you can take without giving. That's not how life works. That's not how life works. Do you understand? That you can't take without giving. There's no such thing as a relationship where the guy is just getting the woman to do all of this stuff and he's not doing nothing. It could be 60-40 or 70-30, but a lot of these guys think it's 95-5. That doesn't exist. That's the fairy tale. A lot of these content creators, dating coaches, there's no such thing as a dating coach, because you can't understand a woman. So that already is rubbish. And then you have these content creators, image consultants, Kevin Simon, and then you have Fresh and Fit. They've been exposed for paying for escorts to go on the show. So this is very dangerous. The only thing I agree with is, yes, there is transactional relationships and then emotional relationships. But I think it's down to the individual on what they think is right, because all you're going to get from YouTube is just people's own opinions, and someone's own opinion is dangerous. So if you have a high intelligence, you won't follow that. That's just my opinion.
You know what?
I've got a few questions. Yeah.
But I'm going to say, sorry, I'm just going to make this comment. I 100% agree with everything you just said there on Top of Force. I mean it to a T. I must be in a parallel universe, but there's nothing I can add or take away from what you said. I 100% agree with everything, even about the content creators, which I wanted to speak on, but I wanted to let you in anyway. But yeah, I 100% agree. It's mad. The Duke.
Right. Yeah, that was good. This is a great discourse. So yeah, thanks, guys. I had a few questions to ask because you really touched on several things that was a good idea. But one thing I would like to raise, so when it comes to all these content creators, they have just been emerging recently. What about the other content creators that sort of said the opposite? You know, like the Derek Jacksons, the Umar Johnson, you know, Steve Harvey, that were basically catering to women, right? So that was part of my conversation in this live. Do you think they were good too? Because they're not like dating experts. They kind of provide a different set of content. So that's why I kind of focused on them a lot more. So what do you think about them?
You know what? I'm just gonna say something. The first thing I think of Derek Jackson is one word that comes to my mind, and I'm gonna explain it. Is juicy. You know, and the reason I say that is because I saw a picture of him, and he was holding shopping bags, and he was muscular and everything. This is the example of a selfish person, of a person who just cares about money and himself. That's all it is. So when he's making these videos, he's going really hard on these videos, but it's all lies. It's all nonsense. So it's kind of like, for example, someone phoning up a medium or a psychic. You know, you're phoning them up and they're scamming you, and that's what it is. It's just that, you know, because as I said before, you can't really understand a woman. It's impossible. That there's no such thing. So, and you know, just by watching the videos, you can see that it's rubbish. That is just nonsense. You know.
And one thing I'll point out is that they were kind of doing the reverse. They weren't giving advice to men. They were giving advice to women on how men think. You know, like Steve Harvey wrote a book called Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. And Derek Jackson would essentially kind of, quote unquote, expose men for how they think and why they cheat. So it's the reverse. So can he speak on men, you know, Derek Jackson, and give the right information to women? Because he's a man himself. He should be able to understand men. Or was he just lying? What do you think?
I think he's just lying. Yeah, he just all he cares about is money and going to the gym. You know, I don't know if he uses steroids, but that's all he cares about. He must be a smart guy because his wife is not very attractive. You know, so
if you look at Derek Jackson as well, though, if you know when all the cheating scandal came out, it actually made more sense as to what he was saying. He was pretty much doxing himself in all his videos. So if you look at the video, he was always talking about men will do this. If they like you, men won't do this. Men will cheat on you like this. He was basically giving the blueprint to himself. So you could argue everything he said was completely factual. It's just was almost a life story, which until the receipts came out, everyone was thinking, oh, he's just dogging out men. Really? He was basically telling a select group of men who he formed a part of, because let's be honest, Derek Jackson, he could simp for a woman because look at him aesthetically. He's tall, he's good looking. So this is another thing about the game. He can play a different type of game than someone who don't have those attributes, where they'll have to play a different type of game. Derek Jackson didn't have to probably do too much. He could do whatever he wanted to do, but he was basically doxing himself throughout the whole, I don't know how long he was on YouTube and all this kind, but he was basically telling the world about him and his ilk. So he was telling the truth. It's just he was telling the truth about himself, and people like him. That's what it was.
I just want to say
one thing is that go on.
Fine. I just want to say, like, I mentioned that his wife is not very attractive. Now, his wife isn't that bad, you know, but what I'm trying to say is that he's a smart guy, because you would think a guy like that would have married a woman that's even more attractive. But as we know, you know, and this is what I believe as well. I believe it, and this is probably proven scientifically, maybe. But you know, the more self-conscious a woman is, the more she cares too much about how she looks, and she's one of those girls. She fits into the category of those girls who are all into looks and very materialistic. Those are the ones that you shouldn't marry. And he married a woman who's kind of average, you know, kind of average-ish, and she obviously has qualities that he won't find in a girl that's really attractive. So that in itself shows he's smart, because a guy like him who with a dumb brain or small brain would have got with a woman who's even way more attractive, but that obviously wouldn't work. You know, so he is quite a smart guy with everything that he's doing. You know, he knows what he's doing.
Right. Okay, so there was an agenda. Is that what you're saying with him? Because we were focused on him and what it turned out about his situation, but the message was given out to millions, because this guy earned a lot for about 3-4 years, giving the same message. Was it good, or was it something we could ignore? Like, okay, he kind of lied to women for several years. Is that a good thing for our community? That's
Yeah,
for anyone to ask.
I would say yes. No, sorry. No, that's not a good thing, because what Derek Jackson was doing was basically he was really telling you what you want to hear. Like this is the
Right.
type of guy that will tell a woman who's fat and out of shape sitting on the couch, "You're the prize." That in itself is absolutely damaging. It's dangerous. So if you're doing that, a lot of these women, what you're doing is because most people are dumb. Just like most people are, even if, for example, because I believe in this theory, and this ties into what I'm saying, that some people have a large cup, but they're only at a fourth or half or less than half of that cup. So what I mean is their brain capacity is enormous, but they haven't filled up that cup yet. You know what I mean? So there are smart people, but most people have a small cup, so they're dumb. So his audience is dumb people. And when you gas dumb people up like that, it makes them into fake narcissists, because they're not actual narcissists, but they're fake. So what happens is you get these women who get this false confidence, like a Lizzo or someone like that, someone who's really big, really fat. They're gonna constantly think that they're the prize, they're best no matter what, you know, and that is very dangerous, because you're not telling people to work on themselves. But that what he's doing is smart, but it's also dangerous. It's like selling drugs. You give that person, you know, the product, but the delivery of it is harm. The outcome of it is harm, but you don't care because you're just making the profits. So that's what I think.
But you know the thing about that though, when you talk about, you know, telling women who are clearly obese, I mean really obese, that they're the prize and that they're queens and they don't have to change anything, is, you know, when you go on Instagram and you see certain women who are huge, and you look at the comments underneath that woman's picture, you think a lot of these things we blame on these content creators and these, you know, Steve Harveys, the Derek Jacksons of the world, Essence Magazine, all this kind of other BS, but the everyday man is feeding into this BS with this simp-like culture where it's like, hold on a second. I like Lizzo, for example. I guarantee on God, there are a lot of black men in her DMs right now. And it's just like, so what we're doing is that we're fueling what Derek Jackson, Steve Harvey saying. Because think about it. How can someone like Lizzo actually be talking about losing weight if she gets DMs in her, if she gets DMs by guys, I want to sleep with you. Yet she's hearing from other guys, she needs to lose weight, but I'm getting chosen. Now, granted, it may not be for marriage and it may not be for the type of guy she wants, but she's getting that attention. It's almost like guys need to stop giving these women attention, because the moment they give them attention and validation, you're fueling what they're saying. You're a queen, you're this, you're all that. Because this is what a lot of black guys be telling these women. You're a queen, you're the god of your mother earth. This is their pickup lines to try and get at them. But that's the whole point. You're trying to get at them. So it's just like, you know what I mean? We also need to take responsibility, not just those guys, because we are basically fueling the fire, which is confirming to them that Derek Jackson and Steve Harvey are right.
100%. No, you've definitely hit the nail. This is where I wanted to take the conversation, you know, based on how we see things are. You both gave a great input on that point alone. What I would say is that that's one spectrum of a narrative by a lot of men. You know, women tend to say that to each other, like, "Oh, you do you, boo. You know, leave her, leave him. You can do better." All of these things, and then you have men also validating that, like, "Yes, yes, stay. You know, stay the shape you're in." I remember Lizzo saying that she wants a ripped guy, like she wants a fit ripped guy, and you know, look at the state she's in. I mean, do you too? So that's one spectrum that I kind of focused on. And then you guys brought up the sort of other side, you know, the red pill manosphere of social media that, you know, tell certain views that, of course, trigger and upset women. But then you're also saying that they tell lies too. Is that what the claim was? That they kind of give a wrong perception of what men should be doing? Are you saying that they're the complete opposite, but also bad for the community? Just to confirm.
Yeah. They're
All
very
right.
all of them are bad. Yeah, I think personally.
You know what it is? I think that the problem with both of the type of content is the balance. Do you know what? It's like the pendulum swing. It's almost like the need. I think what's happened is that someone's trying to balance the swings by being so far right and so far left. What's happening? Trying to balance. But so Derek Jackson won't, for the life of him, criticize black women. Or I think I've seen a couple of videos where he will criticize black women. For the rest of it, it's all black men's fault. Whereas on the red pill side, you have it's all women's fault. Women are the destruction of society, patriarchy, feminism, as if men are completely stupid and dumb and they've let everything go. And I'm like, there's no balance when I see these content creators. So you have extreme right and extreme left, and it's symbolic of our culture in general, with the culture wars. Men and women are completely equal, which might have this whole transgender BS. It's like no one wants to just admit we both are fucked up. We both have issues we need to work on. We both need to do these things. That's what I hate the most. It's just a case of there's no balance. It's just one side or one side. You have to be on which side of the fence you fall on. It's like, well, that's not how life is. And that's what I hate the most about this whole topic for both of them, really.
100%. I get that. So I think the one point you raised was the balance. There is no balance. And this movement that's going on now, emerging on the sort of red pill position, is more extreme, as you've said now. But you're also saying it's almost like a counterculture from what is happening right now. So it's almost like maybe it's needed to push the lens in order for but then again, maybe we'll eventually come to a middle where, look, just get with the right person for you. Majority of us are average. Majority of us are just looking for the right, you know, union, the family. We don't need six figures. We don't need, you know, the 10 or 9. We just want the right person for you. And I get that. And I think that maybe both platforms are able to play that role. But eventually, I think it's hard to find the right balance at this point, because, you know, what's going on in politics, what's going on in the world right now in the West is catastrophic. And so it's almost like a war of narratives. And
I just want to say something after.
Go ahead, bro.
Sorry, because you mentioned six figures. Like, we're all in the UK, so we're going by pounds.
Right.
Who the hell in the UK is making six figures? What the hell?
It's probably 70k. I think 60 to 70 if you want to translate it. It won't be 100k.
Pretty much.
Like this is the problem. Like, with a lot of these UK people watching these American people, they don't understand. Like, some of these people are speaking like an American. A lot of these, like a lot of UK girls don't ask for a guy that, like, a lot of these girls that have gone Cambridge, like these white girls, these posh, come from these upper class families, they don't want no guy that makes six figures. How do I know? Because I've met girls like this. The guys that they get with are guys that are kind of like they're just really passionate about what they do, or they kind of look like nerds. That's the guys that they pick. The guys who usually go for, the women who usually go for, usually use guys for money, are women, from my experience, who come from middle class backgrounds, who maybe did good at school and have a good job, and more than likely they want to have more than 2 kids. So if she wants to have 4 kids, she's gonna be the kind of girl that will use you for your money, and if you don't make a lot, she's gone. And that's usually more or less American girls. I don't really know a lot of girls in the UK who are like that. I've never met a girl like that. That's an American thing, in my opinion.
You know what though? That's not even an American thing, and I'll tell you why I say this. The red pill space was born because these women like Pookie and Ray Rays, they aren't guys making over 100K a year. So when I hear this crap about high value, that's a very, very new term rebranded by Kevin Samuels. That's a new thing. This whole idea of getting a high value guy is a very new thing because black men were moaning because they were called the educated lames. Now, educated lames will earn quite a bit of money, at least better than Pookie and Ray Rays, but they were moaning because they couldn't get the women because the women wanted, as you said in other before, a guy who, let's be honest, looks bummy, a guy who probably, you're like, why are you with that man? I'm the guy who you should be with because I'm the guy with a degree. I'm the guy who's got the head on shoulders. Apparently, that's why I'm even thinking that is a massive, massive hyperbole over there, as they normally do, because they always chat so much shit over there that it's just amazing. A lot of the things that they say is fake as fuck. A lot of their podcasts are fake as fuck. A lot of them are fake. So even I think over there, when I listen to them, they're just completely liars. So take that with a pinch of salt as well. It's just a nice branded term. But that's what I hate the most.
I'm loving the perspective.
Like a lot. And the thing is, like a lot of these guys that talk about money and that you need a lot of money, you know. The money that they're talking about that you need, if you can translate that to pounds, that's like Vincent said, it's only like £60,000, £70,000. Like if you're in a UK, in any part of UK, and you make, let's say, £45,000 a year, even 40, you're good to go. Like you should not feel insecure because most people in this country are not even going to make 90. Like someone working in law don't make 90. Like they make like around 60 something or even less, you know. So this is the problem. Like when you think about this, it makes you more selfish. You become a more, because even on Instagram, like I've seen like there's a lot of trends with certain West African people. Like they will get their degree in like IT or medicine or you know, law or something, and then they go to a different path, an entrepreneurial path, and then they start flexing. They start flexing all over Instagram because they think that that's the life they want to live. And they could, it's a shame because you're wasting all this money just to take pictures to attract girls. You could have put that money in your bank account and just saved it and just bought clothes at H&M and just looked kind of normal. But you have that hidden wealth. Just and these guys need to show their wealth. Why do you need to show your wealth? You're only going to attract a gold digger. It's just silly, man.
Man, you guys gave really good perspectives. But this is one thing we've discussed, actually. I've discussed this with my co-host on Not Your Average Joe's podcast. We've been following this sort of space on YouTube of all these PUAs, so pickup artists, and we've actually had our different point of view in terms of what you guys have been saying. We've been saying it for a bit now. Oh, you know, they're approaching things differently. This is an American experience. We don't know how realistic it is, right? But then what we've been doing is kind of following their narrative. Like, what are they really saying? And for example, Fresh and Fit and Kevin Samuels, they actually advocate for the average guy. They advocate for the blue collar workers, the plumbers, the bricklayers. All these individuals just are kind of giving a realistic approach that, look, they're all these gold diggers you kind of have to avoid and find the average woman who should be focused on the average man. And a lot of the time we see these superficial ideas from that side of YouTube and social media, but we have to really focus on the perspective, the point that's being made. Now, when you compare the UK with America and, you know, the six-figure narrative, we can ignore that. We can easily ignore that and say they're just saying they want a man who's rich or wealthy. Okay, whatever that means. Can you start a family with me? I think that's what we could look at, right? A man in the UK earning a good salary and he wants to start a family, he wants to have kids with someone, right? A lot of women see it like this. And you said that there are some women who don't really care about money. They don't care about how financially stable a guy is. They go for the hobos, right? They call that attraction homosexual. So a lot of women who don't really care, they will get with someone who they feel is good for them. And the issue with that is it hasn't always been like that. There's a period where back in the day, in old ages, where there were arranged marriages. There were, marriage was a business. So when it comes to being with another person, a man and a woman coming together, it was a union of families. And that always involved finances. So is this man a provider? Is he going to protect my daughter when I marry him off? And I think now is that women are more independent. They can decide who to be with without considering the other options. Like, can he provide for me 3-4 years from now after we marry? Can, when I'm pregnant, he handle the bills? And a lot of the times, that's why we have a high divorce rate, because finances aren't discussed in the beginning. So I understand you want to kind of push down the idea that money doesn't matter. But we've discussed this before, is that the long-term effects, right, is being seen if we don't handle these sort of conversations, even during the dating period.
But let me just, on that point, though, the Duke, because this is why I want to bring the point of, I think the patriarchy is a poor nation's success story and not a rich nation's success story, because you don't want a situation. I mean, I wouldn't want a situation where I take what you're saying, where the provider and it's the safe option, but it's also the option which, to unstoppable force, is a transactional base. So would you want to be in a relationship with a woman who sees you as that safe option, as that option to be the good guy in terms of providing, but has absolutely zero sexual attraction to you? I know there's a balance there, but let's be honest, that's kind of where this whole, especially old school way of thinking, it was more of a transactional base. It was more looking for the future. But it's not as if women can't cheat. Women do cheat. And I'm like, would you want that as a guy, to be with a woman who's just there with you because you have a good steady job, you can provide for the family? And I've sometimes I see it, I'm like, oh, I can tell that woman ain't even into you. So I bet it's sex either when you want to have children or once or twice a year. It's all these kind of things in a relationship, which I think it must make them, as a guy, it must be hell on earth. But he must be thinking, oh, wow, I get sex once a month on my birthday, some stupid shit like that. I'm like, would you really want that? Whereas now it's a case of women want you.
I have the perfect reply to that. I just want to say,
go ahead.
Two things. There's a millionaire. I don't know if you know him. You probably do. I think he's Asian or something, and he's a millionaire. I don't know, he's an entrepreneur. Have you heard of him? Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but.
Not too sure which Asian. Is he UK based, US based?
US based. You made Rich Dad Poor Dad, the author.
Him. Yes. He's Japanese.
Yeah. So when it comes to him, actually, he had the interview with Fresh and Fit. Man. Don't know. That. Weird, man. Yeah. He had the interview with Fresh and Fit, and he actually said to Fresh and Fit, my wife was not the gold digger type. When he was with her, because he doesn't want to have kids. They don't have kids. He says kids are a liability. But when he was with her, she didn't care about his finances. He was living in the car. Like, he's poor, and she was like helping him and stuff. So he's in a relationship with a woman who actually likes him. And this is the thing, because when guys look at millionaires, they think, oh yeah, this guy's being used for his money. Yeah, most cases, maybe. But how do you know that she's actually likes him? He might not be being used now, and unfortunately, if we look at Harvey Weinstein, Weinstein is a guy that's a millionaire, multi-millionaire, and he is in prison now for sexual assault because he tried to attract women with his money and his status, and it didn't work, and now he's in prison. So this is the dangerous thing. As time goes on, things change and things improve, and the thing is, a lot of these Red Pill guys, I have to be honest, some of them are crying and getting upset, because they're the types of people who, of the past as well, are people who enjoyed using their finances and power to attract a girl. But now, unfortunately, most girls out earn a lot of guys. So you can't use your money anymore. Do you understand? You the only thing you can use now, because a lot of these girls, they get with guys and they make 60 times more than them. So money ain't really a problem. But a lot of these girls, they want a guy that they actually like, they care about, and maybe not, it's not just about attraction, but the emotional intelligence, are you witty, all these other things. It's not really the money. You can't buy a girl anymore. Just in the UK, you can't buy a girl. It's impossible. Maybe there are some girls who are maybe Muslim, and you know, them Muslim girls will use you and abuse you for your money, you know, because I've been with one, and you know what I mean, that. So you know, so this is the thing now, unfortunately. Guys who have no charisma, nothing interesting about them, are not gonna find a wife. They're not going to get a girlfriend. They're not even gonna have sex, because you can't buy things anymore. You have to use yourself now. So if you don't have that, you're gonna have to maybe get used for your money. And yeah, that marriage might last for 20 years, but that's 20 years of her being borderline abused by you, because she don't really want to have sex with you. Just when you're with a woman who's using you for your money, the sex is like this, you know, yeah, you want sex, let's do it. Yeah, get in the same position. She's in the position, she's putting her face down, and maybe your thing's too big, and she's like, it hurts. Like, are you finished now?
Okay.
Are you finished? That's what's gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
Transactional.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad we touched on this again, because I remember going on Why It Matters panel to discuss this patriarchy sort of conversation, and this is where we sort of differ from our views, because I do believe that it's necessary. The patriarchy has always existed, and this idea that it's sort of an ancient thing that has to die down because the Western world is more progressive and women are earning more. But if you really look at the data, you know, women are still earning less than men. It's just that there's more of an incentive to look for more than just money. I get it, but relationships, right, are always transactional. Even if we remove the money aspect of it, is the woman nurturing, you know, who's taking roles in the home, basically, right? Is the man taking out the trash? Is the woman doing this? It's not just sex. It's not just having kids. It's more like, look, we're forming a partnership. That's how I've always seen it, right? And it's in every culture as well. Like, you're bringing in a contribution on both sides. But a lot of the time, when it comes to dating today, people aren't dating towards marriage. A lot of the times, people are just dating because they feel good with this person. It's just a vibe. He gives good D. You know, all of these aspects now is what has been introduced into dating today that makes money and providing less of a priority today, because people aren't marrying sooner, and because even when people do marry, the divorce rates are high. And then when we give the reasons, people want to ignore that. Oh, you know, the number one reason could be adultery. The second most reason is finance. The third most reason, it all boils down to what trends we see today, right? Women have more options now. Men have to compete with women more, right? My point here is that saying that money doesn't matter, a man providing doesn't really matter anymore, is like we're kind of removing the point of view. Like, there's marriage involved, right? Marriage is almost a business versus just being in love, having sex with a woman. That's a different perspective. So I feel like we're kind of mixing it up. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't you think?
Yeah, I actually agree. Like,
Yeah,
like, this is what I mean. Like, in terms of relationship and marriage, yeah, money is important. But what I'm trying to say is, it's important in the sense that you can take care of yourself and you're financially stable. Now, I've actually created two terms that I want you to all use now. So this first one is called financially stable. Second is financially expansive. Okay. Well, if a woman wants you to be financially stable, she's not going to use you for your money. Now, if she wants you to be financially expansive, yes, you're going to be used for your money, because financially expansive means you're constantly So that's one that's the thing that people don't use. They don't use the term financially expansive. That's something I've actually created. They've never you can use it now. Do you understand? So if you want to, if a woman wants someone who's financially expansive, yes, that's basically a PG way of her saying, I want to use you for your money. Now, I'm not saying there's anything bad with a woman using you for your money. But all I'm saying
But
is,
then, so hold on, because that point was made before, and I want to clarify. I mean,
yeah,
it's not just money. It's okay if the man can provide. Number one, is he loving? Is he there for me? Because a lot of the times, women are looking for the combination. They want it all. A guy who looks good, a guy who can sound good to me and do certain things, and he can provide. If he can do all three, then I'm set. I'm gonna say yes to him when he asks me for his hand in marriage. But then certain times, like different stages of a woman's life, she doesn't pursue marriage. So a lot of the time, she doesn't care about the end result. She just wants to have a good time with a guy. So definitely, money is not even in the picture. It's really about that moment. Fuck his occupation or how much he earns in his bank account. It's just a good feeling. So yes, we've got relationships in one story, but then marriage and commitment with children involved, that part is important. And that's kind of what I'm set on. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, like if
Yeah.
I agree. I like money is important. But if this is the thing, so every girl you have to know what a girl's number 1 to number 3 is, because if her number 1 is the money, then that pretty much tells you what kind of girl this is. Now, if the money is all the way at the bottom of the list, then this is a girl who, and this is the thing, if she's stable herself and she's smart, but she don't really care that much about money, that's the type of girl you want to pick. Because if you pick the girl whose number 1 is money, when you go through, that's a girl who won't ride it out for you. That's a girl who will leave you and
most of the
obliterate.
time they don't. Yeah, most of the time they don't admit it. It's not like we have gold diggers. We know a gold digger when you see one. They pursue a specific bracket of salary, right? Like 200, 300,000 pounds. But we're talking about the regular girl who heard that he's a school teacher, or he's he works in healthcare, he works in admin, he's an IT guy. That kind of rings a bell. Like, okay, he's stable. Like the term you use, he's financially stable. He probably has a car, he probably has a small house. So it's like that's a comfortable idea, without having to say I want a guy with money. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we speak with numbers and all of that, but women kind of translate it to something else. Like he looks confident. He knows, he thinks, he seems driven. They use those terms without having to mention money, because most of the time it's attached with someone who is financially stable. So do you kind of get the point I've made there, or do you stress on? Yeah.
I get your point, and I'll go as far as even to say, and this is something that I believe, a guy's career and career drive has nothing to do with sexual attraction, in my opinion.
Of course.
Yeah, so I've never actually heard a girl, because a girl can say I'm attracted to a guy like that, but she's not sexually attracted to that. She's just attracted. So you could be the guy she marries, and you're this comfortable guy is making this money, but you don't arouse her, and that's why she cheats on you.
100%.
And this is the dangerous thing, man.
Yeah. You know what? The one point to make too is not like all women go for a guy who's rich and just stick with him who's rich. Those are gold diggers, 100%. But then again, they look for the whole pie. They want a guy who's stable and he can talk good. He's got game, and like he can handle himself. He's confident. So again, a lot of these wealthy guys want to learn how to attract women, even when they have money and they struggle to. Because you made a good point that money won't attract these women. You have to come with good game. You have to know how to speak to women. You have to kind of practice. And that's why we have all these PUAs, pickup artists. And they get a lot of funding from these rich guys who ask for advice. That's why there's a bank of just men just waiting to just ask, how do I talk to a girl in the bar? I make 300K, but I don't know how to speak to women. It happens a lot. We have a trend of men who maybe went through uni, never did clubbing or anything. They're just nerds, right? Like what did Why It Matters, he used the phrase educated lames, right? And they get to a point in their career where they're successful, they've got it, but then they don't want to attract gold diggers, but they want to look like they've got game, right? So I think there's a market for them. And for example, if I was that guy who never knew how to attract girls and I had money, and unstoppable force know what to say and do, right, to attract certain women. You can, I could, I can fund you for advising me on what to do and pretend like I'm you.
Yeah.
So again, like, that's one point. I was gonna ask why it matters. Are you still there?
Yeah, still here. I'm listening.
Yeah. I just wanted to go back on the topic on the Patriarch, because I know we touched on it before on your platform, and I'm convinced that there's still a lot we can talk about real quick.
There is actually,
when it comes to, you think what's the future for our society? You think patriarchy needs to kind of be eradicated and then replaced with something else because you think it's primitive? What do you think the future of our society would be?
Like all things, it needs to evolve. So, and this is where, when I listen to a lot of content creators talk about patriarchy, what I'm hearing, the underlying thing I'm hearing is they want to restrict women's free choice. A lot of them, and this is, some of them are really radical. They don't want women to be able to vote. They don't want women in the workplace. They don't want women to be able to even say anything to their husbands. They want women to be pretty much a slave. Now, that's why a lot of times when the word submission comes up, that's what they hear. Women hear this, slave, because when you listen to a lot of the guys and how they translate patriarchy, that's what it comes across as: a walking, talking, a mule, someone who's there just to serve his every needs. Now, again, this is where the balance is. I think we need to just define what we talk about patriarchy, because is it a crime for a man to cook? Is it a crime for a woman to take out the rubbish? Is it a crime for a woman to just say something to a guy? Is it a crime for that kind of stuff? So I think, like in the Western world, we've evolved because we now need more manpower, hence why women are in the workplace, which is why our nations are more prosperous. There's no need for, in terms of the poorer nations, the reliance on men in the traditional sense of the men have to do the hard labor, the men have to do the hard work, because the society is not as advanced. It needs it, which is why the hard patriarchy is more likely to exist in those nations than in the Western world, because in the Western world, women are freer. And what a lot of times when I hear the patriarchy, they always reference, like some people reference India and the Middle East. I'm like, the women there are not free. The women there can't. There's something in India that's going on right now where the women are trying to rebel against rape culture. And I'm going to mean rape culture. I mean rape culture, where the men can actually rape a woman and no one say anything about it and they're not getting prison. I'm not saying that's what people want to happen, but that's kind of where we're heading, or where people want it to head to, where we can pretty much do what we want and women just have to shut up and deal with it. That's what I mean. I think we just need to evolve what patriarchy means for this society. I'm not saying men shouldn't be the head. Don't get me wrong. They should be. With a stronger vessel. We should be the leading force. But when I hear the word patriarchy from these content creators, I think we need to define it in a Western concept.
Okay. No, I'm you know what, it clarifies a lot of what I thought you thought about the patriarchy. And I'm surprised, when you say that you've heard men who kind of say women should be slaves in a way. That's not what we've come across. I would say that I've analyzed a lot of these platforms with my co-hosts, and we kind of figured that they do try and find a balance. What I've seen from a lot of these content creators is that they focus more on acknowledging that, look, society has changed, women have more choices, and we have to sort of, like you said, evolve. Like the patriarch, the idea of a man's role in society in the West needs to change, and it's all about realizing that we have to present ourselves differently than our parents did 60, 50 years ago. So and then you kind of describe what you see in the third world. I believe the patriarch representation in the third world is primitive because they're poorer nations, rather than, it's not because of patriarchy. It's because essentially poverty mixed with sort of traditional gender roles oppresses women, and that's true. But the way I see it, in the West, we still have patriarchy. It's just that, of course, women have more freedom, have more choices, as they should, and I think that should continue. But they should also be self-aware of having everything. If a woman wants to be a career woman, that's amazing, that's great. But if she also wants to have a family, then she needs to acknowledge that some traditions still have to stay. Like, you can't wait until you're 36, 37 to start a family. You kind of have to start the same time women started, 30, 40 years ago, which was in your 20s and preparing for marriage. So that's exactly where the sort of the narrative should go, is that men and women should be aware of their roles today. It's different and it's evolving. But it's not like bad to look back and say, let's take from what was good. You know, what you want, 2 kids, a wife and a husband in the family, or do you want a single mother with multiple kids? That's the future that people are afraid of, because it's harder to take care of a family structure like that than what already existed before. So I get where you are. You're seeing the sort of the negatives to this sort of narrative, but for the most part, I see more acknowledging the truth. Yeah, if you get what I mean. And when it comes to, there was another point you made about the patriarch, and yeah, you say that the men should still continue to lead, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree wholeheartedly that the men, it's biological. So I think some of the things you mentioned were just biological truths as opposed to patriarchy.
Right.
And maybe that's probably what we
that's what, in a way, that's how I see it. It's not like it's not a system that is it's not imposed on some type of entity. It's naturally in us. Like we're biologically wired to think this way. Men and women pursue men who earn more than them, who seem more dominant than them. They would never look down on someone who looked weaker or, you know, subservient. They want a dominant man. So it's like, if we tell them the opposite, it's like you're kind of working against what women want. So it's like, hey, women want the truth. If feminism, like, I don't know your views on feminism, has gone to the point where, you know, it was a good thing, it promoted voting for women, it voted more rights for women, to the third wave form of feminism, which is we need to ostracize men, we don't want anything to do with men, and we're more dominant, right? That's where we're like pointing to, whoa, warning, that's the wrong direction we need to go. Let's pull back, not go all the way back to slavery, but to pull back to somewhere in the middle. And that is a man leading, of course, and men realizing that, look, if you want the best for yourself, we're in a different society today, you kind of have to fight more than you used to. Back in the day, you could date, you know, your high school sweetheart and marry by the time you're 19, 20. But today is different. It's like, now we're all challenged now. Women feel like they have more options. They can sleep around and all of this stuff, right? But men now have to maneuver around that. We have to kind of learn how to point out the, you know, riffraffs, the gold diggers, the those who belong in the streets. And we're trying to watch my language.
And this is what I mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is why a lot of guys, when I hear the word patriarchy, a lot of guys, what they're initially trying to do is restrict women. It seems like in order the way for them to win is not by them competing or for them to raise their standard, it's to restrict women's standard. It's to lower the bar for women. It's to say, you can't do this. It's, you can't go here. You can't do that. So I take your point. We just need to have that almost common sense approach to say, if you want kids, then you have to think about having kids before, you know, 30, 35, because that's going to be dangerous for you. If you want this, you're going to have to think about this. You can't have it all. So I get the common sense approach. It's just, I'll be honest with you, when I hear these content creators, and I don't know if it's just different ones we're listening to, they really are trying to restrict women's agency because it doesn't work in their favor. Because, like Unstoppable Force was saying, if they couldn't use things like money, basically tricking on women, they wouldn't have, they won't be able to attract these women. Which I'm like, aren't most guys wanting an actual attraction to women as opposed to a transactional base? That's why I'm like,
I just want to say one last thing to add on what Duke said about being more dominant. Like, I was actually with a woman before, because she was a Muslim. I said this many times, and she said to me things along the lines of, you know, I only get into a relationship with a guy if the guy makes more money than me. I want a guy more dominant. I want a guy that's successful. But then she said to me over the phone, if I'm with her and I have kids with her, she makes less. If she finds out I make less than her, successful, then leave me. And she said to me over the phone, if I'm with her and I have kids with her, she makes less. What the hell was going on with the stream?
Say that again.
Sorry, that was me.
Yeah. So I said, I was with a woman who said, like Duke said, yeah, I want a guy that's more dominant, you know, and stuff like that. Like in the beginning, she said money wasn't important. Like she was from a Muslim, East African background, and And then, you know, as time went on, I saw that the money really was important. And this is what she said. She said, you know, when we was over the phone, you know, she was like, you know, I'm just gonna say it, you know, if I would leave you if I feel like you're making, she's making more money than me. So that's what she said. Just and this is why you have to be careful. Like, guys have to understand what it means to lead a woman, what it means to be a masculine man. Because the problem is, okay, this is what I think. A lot of Africans even are coming to the UK and they're born in the UK, like Duke, for example, a British guy, you know, a black British guy. But the problem is, okay, is, you know, you understand, you know, the man leads, you understand the man is masculine, but the problem is what a lot of guys aren't really getting is really what it means to be the leader. A man is to just really get other people to do what you're doing. Do you understand? So it's but what is the problem is some people feel like what being a man is to do everything for a woman, only for her to do nothing much for you, or to let her run around and do everything. That's not what a man is. A man really,
that's wrong.
Yeah, is just a person who's managing the situation. But you don't really want to be with someone who like the girl I just met, the last girl I spoke to, you know, who's telling you over the phone, if you make less than me, I'm gone. What kind of girl is that? Who really wants to be with a girl like that? Because I don't. That's just what I'm saying, man.
Can I just chip in here?
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
go on.
Yeah, yo, hey man, hey guys, man, I've been listening to you guys for the past say half an hour, 40 minutes, and you guys have brought up some good topics. And just to cap on, like, just to add to Unstoppable Force here. When it comes to, you know, how we're supposed to be as men per se, we always have to kind of go. You kind of have to kind of go back and look into the past to see what's worked over time. So if you look back, you see, like, you know, you've got the biological standpoint, and then you've also got, you know, the way in which we behave and how we're selected that way too. So the woman saying it to your face that if you make less, then I'm going to leave you, is basically the same thing as if, you know, she could basically have not said that and left. She would have left you anyway, regardless, or made up a reason for it. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is here that, you know, there are I'd say when it comes to being masculine and leading, etc., I feel like there's a very, how do you say, set ways of us doing that, you know, as guys anyway. So for me, for example, it's not a case of, I'd say a case of in a relationship, for example, if I'm in a relationship with a lady, it would be a case of, you know, taking charge in the sense of making the plans, you know, telling her where we go, where we're going to stay, booking those kind of places. And then also it comes to, you know, decision making too. Like, most of the decisions that are made is going to be by myself. When it comes to the money side, it's a case of, you just need to, as long as you can show that you're grinding and, you know, you're trying to level up, most of these women here in the UK, they will stick with you. If I mean, that's from, again, this is anecdotally speaking, this is from my experience. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add just that little bit, you know, go ahead.
Are you because this could add time to my next point. From looking at you, it seems I would guess you're West African, right?
No, southeast.
Southeast African.
Yeah.
Tanzania, Rwanda, that type of stuff.
Oh,
Zambia, South Africa.
Okay, cool.
Okay, well, same thing. Cause this is and this ties into what I think. Because the thing is with me, I've tried different. I mean, I'm black, Caribbean descent, you know, same as white man, you know. But I've tried and tested various different girls, and I kind of see that there's a personality that goes with certain cultures, because certain cultures are raised in a similar way, although there are common outliers or outcasts or black horses of the family. But from what I've seen, when it comes to African girls, like West African, East African, South African, North African, and when we incorporate the North African, that it includes the Middle Eastern element, because North Africans are pretty much Middle Eastern. You know, there is a big Islamic element, a massive Islamic element. Islam is pretty much the strongest force in Africa, in my opinion, in terms of the religion. And from what I've seen with African girls, and this is why I personally would never date an African girl ever again in my entire life. Okay, and this is my theory of what I believe, and I believe it's 100% true. I believe that African women, whether you're West African or the hybridized East African, okay, they are trained to use men for money. They are trained to be extremely materialistic. They are trained to use you and abuse you. And I have proof. I have many proof. I know a guy who was white Irish. He dated a Nigerian woman. The first thing he said, she was high maintenance. I'm like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? That's the thing with African girls. And I'm not saying it's bad. I don't know why they're raised like this, but they're high maintenance. And then when it comes to African men, and I can see this in every African guy I've ever met, okay? Even if you're Black British of African descent, okay? Because if you're born in England, you're not African no more. I mean, you can be raised in an African family, but you're British now, you know? The thing is, I've seen with African men is they are trained, okay? They are trained to be used for their money. Okay, I'm not saying they're trained to have leadership qualities, but they're prepped up to make a lot of money, to do good at school. They're prepped up for the sole purpose of getting with a girl who will use and abuse them. And I've seen it so many times, man.
So do you think the African man is the male is a trained simp then? Because that's what we're kind of, I know you don't use that word, but that's kind of what we're saying. That because of the viewpoint of get a career, get money, protect, provide, and I'm going to be that 100% kind of guy. Do you think the African male is a trained simp?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. They're trained, they're brought up very, very well. But where African men, the downfall of African men is what they don't realize is they're being trained to be used for their money. And it's not just African men, but is the African men, Pakistani men, Indian men are all the way at the top of that list. They're being trained by their families to find someone who don't really care about them and is just using them. That's my opinion, man.
Interesting. This was a great segue, but what I've noticed, so are we saying that there's a cultural divide between us? Like, okay, me and Moose are African, and you and White Matters are Caribbean, and your perspective is sort of different because of that? Is that what you think? And because of that training, right?
I think me and White Matters are from the same background, but for me personally, I've never been encouraged to get married or anything like that. But the thing is that makes me different from other Caribbean guys is I know so much about African people that is scary. Do you understand? Like, I know so much.
Yeah, let me touch on the African. So your idea is that it's almost like ingrained in our culture to be used and women to chase for money alone. And I feel like in most cases, most cultures are like that. For example, I mean, Mystic Moose, do you think that you are being prepped to be with an African woman, or do you feel like you see that aspect of being around hypergamy with other women as well? Do you feel like it's just African women or women you've dealt with before?
I don't know. So me personally, I've dealt a lot with Mediterranean, Eastern European, South American, and it's the same everywhere. It's the same thing. I feel like no matter who I deal with, it's a case of you just need to be the better option per se. And regardless of whether I've been trained or not, it's in my best interest in order to strive to be that anyway. So, I mean, I don't know. I've never thought of it as, I don't know. I've never seen it as training. I've just looked at, I've just looked at my dad, for example, and how he has, treated my mother and etc. in the household. And I've also looked at other families as well, whether they be, white upbringing, South American, my next door neighbors, and they're pretty much the same. It's a case of they go to school, they taught the same lessons, that kind of thing. And these guys, you will literally hear the conversations they have at the table. It's about leveling up and, being a better version of yourself and all of these kind of things. And usually the conversation doesn't involve women at all. It just involves us becoming better. When we go out to go and, have fun and, get a girlfriend, let's say, or, go to meet women, it's now a case of you come already prepared, already prepped at your best self, and whoever you're selecting or whoever you decide to, I don't know, engage at that point now sees your worth, I suppose, and it's up to them whether they pick you or not. But I don't know. I feel like I don't think it's training. I don't think it's training per se.
Yeah. To sum it up, what you're saying really is that the success you're trying to strive for really has nothing to do with women in your life. It's more about kind of your self success. They are an add-on, right?
But again, I do have expectations. I do have expectations from the women that I do want in my life as well, obviously. But that's again nothing to do.
You know what? That's what I wanted to tackle. Sorry, that's what I wanted to tackle with the guys, is that this idea that you're being used by women because you earn more. One thing I would note is that with Unstoppable Force, are you still there? With the girl the African girl you dealt with, and you realize when she said, "I'll leave you if I was making more." I feel like we heard that a lot with all women. It's just that she was so upfront with it. You don't really get that anyway. I feel when it comes to these women on these platforms, they go on like Kevin Samuels or on these different shows saying the exact same thing. They will deal with different guys who aren't really earning much, like flings or friends with benefits or boyfriend, but their main goal is to be with a successful man. They all say the same rhetoric. And it's like, okay, is everyone a gold digger? Or, are we just hearing one version of every woman's perspective on a rich man? I'm convinced that throughout society, women are hypergamous. There's not just gold diggers. Like every woman, we'll just say it differently, but they're all the same.
That's it. I agree with that. Right? That's the outtake that I've got from it. It's a case of every woman you encounter or be with wants the best man that they can get. They will continue to date up regardless. So that's why it's a case of on as well as personally becoming the best, you do have to realize that to other women, you also have to be, on a certain level as well.
But I just want to say,
just say Vincent's backstage, the Duke just to say.
Bro, I'd be on as well.
I just wanted to say, like, because what's this guy's name? Mystic Moose. So you said many times, like, the girl is the one who picks you, and you said, you have to be good for the girl. This right here is
no, I didn't say you have to be good for the girl. What I'm trying to say is that you have to be basically what I'm trying to say is that if you want to maintain, let's say, I'm trying to put it in the best way. Like basically, look, if you want to put yourself in the best light, you want to show, or you want to be in the position where you have, you're striving for, to be the best version of yourself. Whether you are there or not, it's neither here nor there. It's just a case of whether you're on the way / you can show that.
I think it's the language you're using. How I'm hearing it is, it's like that's the bait and hook, which to me and Unstoppable Force, probably our background, that's not what we're trying to use to bait a woman, because that's where you're going to get a woman who's a gold digger. You're going to get a woman who's only there for you as a transactional thing. You being the best version of yourself is cool. I think everyone should do that. However, that's not the bait I'm going to use. I'm going to use attraction, because that is more of an igniter than.
Oh yeah.
For sure. In the beginning, 100%.
Yeah.
But the long term,
I think there needs to be clarity. One more thing is just that there's a difference between using your wealth and assets to attract women, which is unsuccessful, and having game, having the ability to talk to women, to get along socially. And I think that's what Mr. Moose, you covered that before you kind of spread out your success, like, oh, this is what I have too. I think long term that's what a man does to keep a woman around, is that I can attract you initially, we can have our fling, but then I'm into you more because you seem stable, right? Because that's what women do, is like they have their pick and then they decide who's the best suited for themselves to stick around with, maybe till marriage or whatever. So it's almost as if, look, at the end of the day, you can have game, you don't need money to attract women, but to keep women around, you kind of need more of yourself. The same way women also need to be valuable too. The JJ is not enough to keep a man around. You have to be a nurturer. How many recipes can you cook? Can you be, in a way, submissive, or just girlfriend material, wife material? So both parties have to contribute somehow to be a long-term, spouse in a relationship.
I've got some unfortunate news for you.
Go on.
Okay.
Let's go.
Finding a woman in the UK who will cook, clean, you ain't gonna find her. I'm sorry, man.
There are.
Wait, but are those your expectations?
There are some though. So, and hello everyone on the panel. Hi, the Duke. Thank you.
Hello, Vincent. How are you?
Man like Vincent. Sorry to cut you off, Vincent. By the way, I apologize for that.
That's right. Don't worry. Yeah. I just had a question for you and so forth. I think you guys can imagine, right? You said African men are trained simps. Are you saying because they're taught, they're brought up to provide and care for their wife and children? Is that why?
Just to clarify, I use the word simp. On Super Force never used that word, just to clarify.
Yeah. I actually don't believe in the word simp. All I'm saying is what I believe, and it's a double-edged sword of each end. That African women are naturally, I'd say 90% of them are naturally materialistic, especially if they're born in the UK, are naturally materialistic. And they marry guys that they don't really care about, even if the guy is attractive, and they use him and abuse him, and when he don't make enough money, they leave him and abandon him. And then the men are knowingly trained and prepped up. It's like they go to a school to be prepped to be used for money. So that's the whole point of African parents pushing their kids to get good grades, because they want them to marry someone that will use them. That's what I'm saying. And it's not just West Africans, it's also East Africans. Also, I don't consider East Africans black people, but I do consider them African.
Okay, well, first of all, I mean, in my case, right, it's more of a case of, wealth, establishing wealth, a legacy in Africa. I know the Duke and Mystic Moose, if you guys come back. Yeah, I don't know if it's being trained, to be used because of your money. I think it's more so in terms of, providing and, telling society that, look, I made it. I've made it up the socioeconomic ladder. And because that, when you said that earlier, that really threw me off. But
you should, you absolutely should, because this is the thing about me. I'm a capitalistic person, so I would work a job not because I like it. I work a job because it's going to pay me a lot of money. I'm that type of person. I don't believe in working a job you're passionate about. I don't believe that. I think that's nonsense. That's a woman thing. A man is supposed to work a job that just pays him a lot of money, and like me, for example, I've said many times I work in IT. I'm moving into cybersecurity. Hopefully, my goal is around £85,000, and I'll use that money to invest to make more money. And I've said many times, I don't want to have a kid. I don't see myself having kids, because a kid is essentially debt, and it's a liability, and it's an extra £50,000 every time you have a kid, and they drain you. They drain you physically and they drain you financially. And I'm all about money. So if I wanted to marry someone, I want it to be about money and us liking each other and traveling, her helping me make money, I help her make money. But all I'm saying is from what I've seen, because most Caribbean black men, Caribbean African men, don't touch African women. They've never tasted an African woman. I went all the way into the deep depths of the ocean and went to the forbidden
Deep depths
fruit.
of the ocean, you know.
Yeah, to the East African from Somalia. She was born in Canada, lived in the US, and lived here. And she was very honest about her hypergamy, if you want to call it that, and how she wants to use people for money, man. She was okay with it. You know, I'm sure it's no different to West African. I think it's the same.
Unstoppable thoughts, right? Would you not agree that that's, you know, the correct way to raise a girl or daughter, you know, female child, to, you know, settle for the best? Because especially in this space, right, a lot of, you know, people are saying that black women are chasing the pookies and ray-rays. So when you hear the term choose better, and, you know, now you see that within African culture, my female counterparts, that's how they're being raised. Is that not a good thing? Because one, they're saving themselves for marriage, and, you know, in most cases, like in my own case, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, in my own case, right, I was always brought up there, bring home a virgin. Does she come from a good family background? Is she well educated herself? And, you know, also, does she have money herself? Is not some poor girl from you know, some lower class family. That's how it is. It kind of goes both ways, to be honest.
Yeah, that if you have a if I had a daughter, yes, I would want my daughter to be with someone who has money, but not just money. And I would teach her to use men for money. I would. But this is because if a girl is using you for money, that means she has game. You know.
Well, I mean, it's also, you know, because, you know, as Africans as well, we generally tend to be religious as well. They have to also be of the same faith as well. So all of that ties in. I don't know if the Duke you want to add in.
I just have something on the whole point, and this is to basically the Duke, Mystic Moose, and you, Vincent. Then, so do you know when? Because I've heard this from like African women and families that, and even yourself, Vincent, have mentioned this, that a lot of African households, the word love doesn't come into it. It's very transactional based. So I'm hearing things which, are you happy with being in a marriage and a relationship which is just purely transactional? Because right now, Vincent, you've just checked off a tick box. Does she have this? Is she in a good family? Is she this? I've heard nothing about, do you find this woman? Do you like this woman? Does a woman like you? Could you be cooperative? I don't know. It sounds more transactional. It's get this in life, to get this, to get this, to get that, to do that, to do this. It all seems very formulaic.
Well, I mean, in my own case, I think I see it more as a friendship, more so. I mean, obviously, in my own case, I do want to be attracted to her. I'm not going to marry an overweight woman. That's just,
bruh.
You know,
he just had to slip in. Man came in with set goals. No one over 175 pounds.
I've been on the panel with Vincent before, going through his list of women
you know me. I'm not going to go past a dress size 2. That's how strict I am. So, you know, you have to sit as well. Now, granted, I know I didn't bring that up, but I'm bringing on the most important factors. What type of family background does she come from? Is she a Christian? And in my own mum's case, is she a virgin as well? So that's how, you know.
So there's no one question. Yeah, there's no setback. So she has to be a virgin, or you give it a chance.
Yeah, would you compromise? Are you compromising on it?
In my own case, I'll maybe just accept it. I mean, if she has a very low body count, then
and what's low? What's low for you, bro?
Under 2.
Under 2.
Under 2, boy.
Yeah. All right.
Salute to you, bro. Yeah. Can I touch on the topic real quick? Sure. So why it matters? You mentioned how it's more of a transaction with our culture than love.
It seems that way. Just
Right. I think, you know, society today makes it easier for it to be more than just that, because marriage for a long time was transactional, was almost business between two families. But today, you can get to know your partner before any marriage comes into the question. You can go on dates, like, you know, for example, I know how my parents met. They didn't need any family relatives involved. They dated like how it is in the West. But when it comes down to it, it has to be almost more transactional than love, because love is fleeting, you know, beauty, you know, fades away. And to the perspective, you have to be more diligent in the choices you make in spouse. Love can build throughout maybe decades of your relationship. You can work that out. I mean, you have children, that comes with it too, that unconditional love. But in most sense, when it comes to marriage, it's conditional, because who is providing, who is nurturing, everyone has a role to play, and we kind of put it, maybe the culture emphasizes on it more, but everyone does that. Even I'll probably think Caribbean families would do that too, in a way. What is the man doing while the women are pregnant and having children? Who is providing? They're both providing. In essence, both of our parents in the UK provide too. Some of our come from immigrant families where both parents had to work. So in essence, it's almost a negotiation, as a transaction, but we do value love too. I accept that. Do you want to add anything, Vincent?
No, so I just wanted to know, but I'm going to let Mystic Muse go and then give us, because I had a question. Why it matters.
I was just gonna literally all I was gonna say is put it very simply. In the beginning, it's gonna be about attraction and whether I can bond with this person. If I see the ability to bond, then you can go further, isn't it? And then at that point, now you start to assess, as well, alongside that, the qualities of if it's a woman anyway, the woman anyway. It's a case of deciding, is she nurturing, is she caring, can she be the mother of my children, is she submissive in that sense? So I think it's a mixture of the two, and I'd say that love is how do you say, it's like almost like a dream sold. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we have to think about it. We have to operate in reality, as well. And I'm not saying I don't believe in love at all. I'm saying I do believe in it 100%. It's just a case of, I don't think it should be the sole thing that you decide on how to get married, because you can love somebody a lot, but they can be bad for you, man. Or they can be not 100% fit or qualified to be your significant other.
But I think 100%. I think it's just the order of things. Exactly. So I think Vincent seems to be a lot more. But Vincent seems to be a lot more. She has to have this, and I'm like, okay, cool, all that, but you know what I mean. So because I've found in sort of my experience, if the woman finds you attractive, a lot of things are easier to get along with as a person, because you want to do things for each other because you have that attraction. Yeah. Whereas if it's transactional, it really is a stress and a grind for basically to even do the roles for that woman to do the roles, for you to do that roles, because you just you don't even like each other.
Because I don't like you. Exactly. It's a case I don't like you. So why am I going to be doing this? Why am I why am I going to be, going out of my way to pick you up from the airport at 7 a.m. when I don't like you?
Absolutely. I've seen relationships where the reason why it lasts so long is because historically divorce was seen as a shame. So I think now that's why I'm sort of prefacing nowadays it's probably more beneficial, because you didn't have that shame. Divorce was not frowned upon. Now divorce is like, you can divorce to get married at a whim. So it's transactional based. I'll be interested to see how that works, as opposed to having at least an attraction to that person, which makes you at least want.
You'd be getting roasted. The reason why you'd be getting roasted for the divorce, though, is because your dad is going to be looking at you sideways, 100%. If you're the woman anyway. That'll be like, what's wrong with you, man? I raised you right, so why are you flopping?
That's the thing. I think is one thing is the culture and the social proofing that forces us to kind of stay together, even when we're in the West. It is to remind us where you're from. Like, look, this marriage has to work out. You have to find that love again, but you're doing it for your children. There's more lives involved, So that's a major thing. Go on, Vincent.
No, well said. And that's what happened as well in my mum's case, right? She got a lot of heat when my mum and dad, when they divorced, from a lot of the communities, right? People were saying that, pretty much she was pretty much shamed for getting a divorce from my dad, despite it being his fault and his own character. They overlook, it's like, if the relationship fails, it's all the woman's fault, regardless. Now, the question I had, right, for Why It Matters and Unstoppable, how is it within Caribbean culture? Is it mostly about love, or how does it work within Caribbean culture?
Do you want to go first, Why It Matters?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for sort of what I know and understand, because I will tell you this: a lot of Caribbeans aren't as connected to their culture as Africans are. I'll tell you that. But for a lot of Caribbeans, it's definitely no way near in the sense of a transactional base. Like, you must have this to have that. A lot of Caribbean men, they lead with that whole, let's just say, swag. That's really, I mean, the ones that I've experienced, how I was sort of raised around.
Miss, could you mute for a second?
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
it was never a case of you must earn this kind of money, you must bring home a woman who has this, you must bring a woman like this, a woman must be like this. There's that conversation about the type of woman, don't get me wrong, but it never, ever, ever, I've never had the experience, especially talking to a lot of Africans, it's completely different. I've never had the experience of you must bring a woman like this, you must, because my mum didn't marry a guy who had a lot of money, not in the slightest. My aunties didn't marry a guy who had a lot of money. A lot is the opposite. So it was never that case of that's the kind of guy that they were trained for, I was built for. I want to be successful just for me, but it's never been a case like that. Now, I'm assuming the upper echelon Caribbeans will be a bit like that, but even truly as a whole, nah, it's never been that push like that. I've never experienced pushes to be like that. It's just not happened.
So it's more so to do with just your swag or characters. Is that's what I'm getting from it, right? I
suppose if you have character, then from there you have the sensible conversations. Do you know what marriage is? Are you good for you? That kind of stuff. But as long as you two are happy and in love and that kind of stuff, and you can build, cool.
Yeah, that's very, very different. In Africa, no, it's more so to do with how you can provide your money now. But unstoppable thought, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I agree with White Matters. I mean, in the Caribbean culture, there's like probably 3 types of Jamaican types of people, you know. Like in the old days, you know, in the 50s, 70s, the Caribbean men were the leader of the household. They would provide, the woman would stay at home. You know, that was a common theme, and it still kind of is in some households, but most Caribbean households aren't like that, you know. You know, they're not like that. And when we talk about Caribbean people who are born to Caribbean parents and their children are British, you know, they pretty much follow the same culture or trend as other white people who come from middle class backgrounds, you know, maybe probably liberal or maybe slightly moderate, but most of the time it's not about money, you know. It's never really about how much money you make. I've only associated that with African people, although Caribbean men, for example, I know a guy who is born in England, and he's a bit younger than me, probably the same age as you, and his girlfriend is 28, you know, and he's 22 or something, or 23, and she's also Caribbean or African or something. She's kind of light skinned, and they've been together for about 3 years, and he's been out of a job, and she really likes him, you know, and it's not about money. And he's the driving force in the relationship, you know. He's made her cry a couple times, and because he's not happy, and she still stayed with him, you know. So
I'm going to say this, Vincent. The stereotypical Caribbean guy, marathon man. Stereotype. Our conversations we had with marathon man, he's a stereotype, because even like talking to my mum, my dad didn't have a job when he met my mum, and they still got together. So just to understand the type of
you know what
I mean, dynamic.
I've had these conversations, especially in secondary school now, because obviously, you know, I went to an all-boys school, and whenever, you know, the topic of girls came up naturally, you know, when I get older, do I want to have kids and that? And I used to always get laughed at, you know. Obviously, I'm not trying to throw shade. It was always about the Caribbean kid, and now I look back on it. Now I'm starting to see the pattern, because to them they're thinking that what
it's alien to them.
To me, it was drilled into me. Like, for example, my cousins, right? Well, the boys, right? We all have to make 150K and upwards. Like it is non-negotiable. Like mom is literally on my neck that if I'm going to be in the UK, 120,000 pounds or more a year. You know, there's a lot of immense pressure on her. So, and then with them, it's more like, oh, you know, does she have a big batty? Is she, you know, does she have nice hair? So and so and all, and I'm just like, wait, what? It's like, you know, we come from 2 different worlds, but I don't know.
The thing is, though, I mean, I will say this: it's even though that pressure is intense, that's not a bad thing. Just for you, just to let's be honest, that's to make you have a good life, and that's what I would say I do agree with. I mean, forget women for a second. I think we focus too much on women. Forget that for a second. As a man, I 1000% agree with the concept as you should be financially stable. I do think sometimes the pressure can be a bit too much, and it needs a little bit more destructive situations where I think a lot of African people are probably under too much stress and pressure, and black people aren't. Mental health is a topic we don't talk about enough. But I do think that's needed as a man and just as a person, just to be financially stable. But yeah, it's 100%. We probably have that. It's two extremes, isn't it? We need to somehow balance the two. That's what I think.
I don't know. Just really quickly, the Duke, right? There have been times I've actually just cried so hard because I'm thinking that how on earth am I going to make £120,000 or more? Like I'm literally trying to make a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. But with others here, currently right now I'm residing in the States, right? With them it's all about, I'm gonna buy myself a Dodge Challenger. I'm gonna, buy a nice crib, and that's about it. With me, I'm thinking about, okay, I need to buy multiple properties. I need to buy this. I have to buy that. I need to be in the top 0.5% of all earners. I have to do this. I have to do that. And yeah, just piggybacking off what Wyman said about the pressure thing. It's a lot.
Yeah, this topic has actually struck a chord for a lot of us hearing this, like if you're African, because I always assumed that people thought this way differently. It was distributed in every culture, but we can clearly see a distinct difference between us, Africans and Caribbeans. What I would say is that going back to how the men in our communities behave when it comes to dating, right? So as a man, as an African man, I know that I can have good game, but I also need to come with the paper in terms of my background, my portfolio, right? But then maybe a Caribbean guy just needs to know how to sweet talk a woman to, get her attention. And a lot of the times they're a lot better than the average African because they know that even if they don't have money, they can still get women. And so again, it's almost as if you have to be an expert at speaking to women. It could be lying to women or just, getting her on your side, getting her to open her legs in that moment. So like you said, why it matters that, Caribbean men, even if they don't have a job, they can still lock down a woman. That's the thing. Yeah, see, now that's interesting. And that's why I kind of brought up this topic is if men can communicate lies to women or woo her enough to, be with him without bringing anything to the table, that's a very unique and I think strange approach to dating in today's era. And I think it works in today's era because let's say going back 100 years, men couldn't just go around like flirting with women, taking her under her arms without anything, without any assets, any skills, any land, So that's what I'm seeing. And I feel like, having you guys as, Caribbeans having a perspective, we needed to hear this too, because I was wondering, where is this coming from? Where is this sweet talking women narrative coming from that is allowing women to sort of open their emotions to men who aren't even available, who aren't providers? And we have men with multiple women, they practice polygamy, but don't have any commitment to any of these women while they have children.
It's because...
Yeah, what do you think about that?
It's just because, I don't know if you follow some dating coaches, but just in general, from my experience, all these things you said are good on paper, but it doesn't get a woman's pussy wet. So all those things is...
We get it. See, now that's the point. I'm saying that in the long run... Go on.
But I'm saying, you're saying the long run and you're trying to think logical. You're trying to think, I understand what you're saying, but a woman should be thinking more 10, 15 years down in the future. She should be thinking more, hold on a second, what about kids? The kids need clothes. The kids need go to schools, whether it's private schools. If they go to university, all this kind of thing you're thinking more as a man should do, by the way, which is the future thinking. You're thinking of the logical thing, but that's not how women are going to be wild. That's not how you get that woman to really open up to you as a man. You know what I mean? So her guard will be up, whereas a guy who doesn't have that viewpoint, her guard will be down. That's why you probably see in two different lights.
I have a question.
Now go on.
I'll go the Duke, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to what he just said. And now, yes, women are essentially clueless when it comes to dating, when it comes to picking the right guy. That's why a lot of these red pill guys would say that most of the times women need an assistant, like a male relative, to vet the men in their life, because a lot of women make very bad choices because
Mhm.
there are men who are womanizers who would, you know, hook her in, and then she has a child, and then he runs off, and then another cycle has begun. And that's what we're seeing a lot today, and that's why there's a kind of chaos and conversation about how women are making the wrong decision in men. They're picking the Pookies and Ray Rays instead of the guy who is trying to make, you know, a success for his life. That's the thing, is that it wasn't like that. Women weren't deciding who to date without a family member telling them who to, you know, give a chance. But today it's like, hey, they can choose based on feeling. I feel like this guy is for me. I love him. That's the response they give when a person asks, why did you end up with him? You know what I mean? The emotional attachment that women have is why a lot of the time they make the wrong choices in men. So yeah, he was going to add something else.
I just want to say that is actually a good thing, you know, why the women make bad choices, because the fact that women make bad choices shows that you actually have a chance in actually finding someone, you know what I mean? Because you already know women already make bad choices, you know, and the thing is, you know, with women saying, I want a guy who makes this amount of money, that's just what they're saying, you know, but who did they actually pick? You know, who are they actually crying over? They're not really, what women say is different to what they do. That's classic dating coach stuff, you know what I mean? That they don't really go for the guy they say they want. They usually go for the guy that is a bum, is unemployed, because I've said many times I've been dating when I was broke, when I had no money, when I didn't even have a job. You know, when I've been out of a job, and I did quite well, from being honest with you.
I'll say this. I'll say this about women, and I think women are a lot like men, more than men give them credit for, because men do this. Men will go after a woman in their younger years who, let's be honest, is fine, has a fat ass, looks good to him. And because let's be honest, I always find it strange how men now are all marriage focused. I'm like, when have men ever been marriage minded at a young age? Just bullshit.
So that's a good question.
When I hear this crap, you want women who are marriage material. No, you don't. You want a woman who will open your legs to. The problem is with men in this spaces, they just don't get access. This marriage stuff is bullshit. It's a front.
I can answer that. I know that's a great question, because yes, women are dating like men today. Yes, we're going based on just how we feel right now. If a guy's horny, he wants to release. You know, that's an innate perception. But the repercussions is on the women. At the end of the day, it's unfair, because if we go around smashing and then we run off, we can learn and relearn our mistakes in our 30s and then start properly, you know, become family orientated. That's what a lot of these guys end up being. But a lot of the times, if the women are doing the same thing at the age of 21, 22, 23, and then end up with a baby, they can't relearn, or, you know, they make the mistake, or even if they didn't have a child, or they're still doing the hot girl summer thing throughout their 20s. Once they hit 35, they run out, you know, they're dried up, or they're undateable. Men can correct themselves later on, and that's what kind of how we benefit, unfortunately, while they suffer the repercussions of being seen as, oh, she's got baggage, she's got issues, she's been around, you know, she's been for the streets. That's the difference.
I think a lot of it is exaggerated, though, because a lot of women, I'll be honest with you, a lot of women, the pregnancy rate for like teens and 20s is dropped down dramatically. The actual the biggest rate of births for single mothers is actually women between 32 and 37, for obvious reasons, because their biological clock is ticking, and they're, again, mature women. But I take your point. I do think some of it's a bit exaggerated, that men all of a sudden, when they hit 35, they can get these young woman who's 23. I think a lot of that's exaggerated, unless you're the top 0 points.
You think they can't?
Looking at the stats and looking at my own anecdote experience, most guys over 35, they're not getting women who are 23. They're not. Most guys that age, I don't care what content.
It's BS. I know. I agree.
They're not getting those type of women, because if they could, you'll see these red pill content creators with them, but they have to pay for it. They don't get them at all. It's a lot of nonsense. So I do think a lot of these content creators talk about men can really, their sexual value doesn't it increases over time. No, it doesn't. A lot of nonsense.
I just want to say, I actually do know one Jamaican. He's American, but of Jamaican descent, and he has a practice of polygyny, and he's married to women. He only goes for women 25 and under. Only he doesn't go over 25 or whatever, and he's 48, and he's
But
got
they're
two.
rare exception.
Rare, yeah. I will say, if you're like 31, 32, I think you could get a girl around that age. But if you're like over 35 and let's say you're 40, 41, in my opinion, why would you want a girl that young anyway?
Right.
That doesn't really make any sense because the frontal lobe in your brain doesn't develop well until you're like 26, 27, or 25. Yeah. So the girl, even though she might have high IQ level, she's still going to be dumb. Like she's still going to be immature. You're going to see that she's just weird. Like she's just not on the same wavelength as you. So now if you want a girl who's 28, 29, 27, that can be easily achievable because
Right.
But anything younger than that, I don't see the point. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Does anyone else disagree with the age gap? Anyone else in the panel? Myth Twist?
Not at all. Myth Twist.
Okay, Mr. Moose?
Hey, man.
Yeah, what do you think about the age gap?
The age gap. For me, I don't know. For me, it's just a case of, as we, again, the reason why I feel like, these the younger men cannot, compete, for example, with these guys who are 35, 36. And again, I think these guys, they're not looking, the guys who are, above 35, 36, they're not really looking to maybe marry these women. They'll probably look to smash if they're not married at that point.
So
they're
35-year-old isn't pursuing a 21-year-old for marriage.
I don't think so.
What age range is he looking for marriage then? He's
probably looking between the ages of 24, 20, between 24 and 27, somewhere around there.
That's still kind of young. Does everyone agree with that as well?
21 is very, very young.
Where's the limit? Where's the limit?
On that?
I would say the cutoff is around about 24, 25 for sure.
Did you say for older men?
Older men.
Oh, okay. Can you give me an example?
So like 35. So I'm talking 35, 36.
Okay, looking for women that are in their early 20s. That seems kind of young. That's
mid 20. I'd say mid 20s. 20. Let's say 24, 25.
Okay, if that's like a 10. Okay, so that's a 10-year gap.
10-year gap.
That's not bad. Yeah.
I just want to chime in. I want to say to Duke, I do think men at the age are looking to marry a woman around that age. I'd say even 18, 19.
No, sorry, you're reaching.
I honestly do
you are reaching.
Is everyone assuming, or there's probably data to back it up in terms of the age gap? But I don't think it's unrealistic. Definitely does occur. There are a lot of 40-year-olds who earn a decent amount can bag an 18, 19-year-old. It happens, we might see celebrities do it.
You know what that's about, though, don't you? You know what that's about. That's purely for one reason only. They have finance. Right. I mean, if it happens, cool, but it's not like some guy who earns 60K a year. It's some guy who is probably a millionaire, either a footballer or like Boris Johnson. He's what? How old is he? And he married a person 35 years old. It's not. It has to be an extremely rare example of a celebrity. Marcus Houston. He married what was it 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and everyone went crazy. But he's a celebrity, so I think it's extreme examples. There's no way near there. Right. Even the guy who makes a good money, not that kind of guy. It's celebs, power positions, those kind of people at best.
Myth Twist, sorry, thanks. Myth Twist, do you have any input to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, the age thing is it's completely down to desire, and that's it. At the end of the day, if a girl isn't looking at you in that way of desirability, doesn't matter how old you are, she ain't gonna really want to stick with you in that type of way long term anyway, unless you've got money. The reason why older guys, people like, oh, it's the money, it's because they usually don't have anything else. Now, if you're a guy where you're older, and I'm saying this as someone who's younger, I know I know for sure most girls at my age do not like older guys. And I'm not talking about oh, they won't get with them. Oh, they'll get with them. They'll get with them for sure. They'll get, especially a lot of pretty girls. Yeah, they'll get with older guys because the older guys are willing to pay for their beauty and their youth, right? But those are usually short-term transactional arrangements. Now, sometimes I think most of these guys know what it is. They know they're doing the sugar daddy thing, and they're just doing that. They know they're not deluded. There's some guys that are deluded, sure, but I think most of them know what it is, and they just, you know, they're just like, I just want a young girl for a week, fly her out. I know girls where this is what they've done, right? They'll sit there and say, well, you know, oh, he ain't shit, you know, I'm just getting that money. They know what they're doing. They're both playing each other. But the thing is that people who are outside of that look here like, oh, if you're older, that's the only method, and there's no way that a younger girl's gonna like you. There's some girls my age who refuse to date guys the same age as them. They refuse. They won't do it. If you're not older, and it's not always about money. Like, they just have this thing where they just want a guy who's just further along in life. And some, they just, because let's just be honest, like most guys my age, if I'm just gonna be real with you, I can see like what they mean. I mean, most of them don't have their mind right, and it's you know, they're just young. But it's like some girls are a bit further ahead than that mentally, and they can't find that in their environment. I even find this sometimes. Like sometimes with me, I'm dealing with some girls my age, I'm like, man, this bitch is dumb. And you know, I'll be talking to a woman who's 28, 29, 30, 31. I resonate more with her. So it's just, you know, but because I'm a guy, I'm not about to date some 30, 32-year-old woman. But I understand. I understand why women will do it. It's just more to do with the connection. You know what I mean? The finances is only there because most guys don't have anything else.
Do you think, bro, just out of curiosity, they're like, okay, these older guys that date younger women, that they're jealous of me and you, because I'm 22, right? Do you think that if they, you know, this is kind of a bit random, right? They're, you know, younger girls who's the same age as us, they were just around us. Do you think they would feel some type of way?
Nope.
Well, older guys.
No.
They wouldn't.
I don't think they would.
Nope.
Okay, do you
Not
guys
at all.
understand? Okay, no, they wouldn't. All right, gotcha.
Wait, what do you mean? Would they feel some type of way if they're around?
No,
Intimidated?
what did you say?
Did you mean intimidated by the younger guys around the girls?
Well, kind of, you know, like maybe seeing a younger guy in his 20s like me around girls my own age, and they're dating that girl. Do you think they would feel some type of way? Like
some do,
would've...
for sure. So it's capped to say that they're in, because some do, and I've dealt with that jealousy before. And it is because some guys they feel like they missed out on certain shit in their youth. It's just a fact, and I can understand that, because sometimes I look at certain dudes, I'm like, man, like they'll sit there and you can tell they just ain't done shit with themselves, man. And I'm just kind of like, boy, well, you know, I can see how you're gonna feel a bit salty about that, you know, especially if you're actually doing things that they didn't do, because you got to bear in mind the era we're growing up in. There's just certain things we're just very fortunate to have, and I always think to myself, like, certain guys, you know, who might be 40 or something, they might be looking at that like, because I'll tell you the main way I see it is how they talk down to you. So I've had it where guys will be kind of like, oh, you know, it's all right for you at your age, you know, these girls are just out here loose. Back in my day, you know, girls wouldn't even give you head, and and you can tell there's some salt there, you know what I mean? And it's like, bro, like, it's not my fault. I was born when I was born, like, you know, but I don't know. I couldn't ever say how many it is. I think for the most part, most of them are just going about their life, but you never know, because most people aren't going to be open about that type of stuff. So it's hard to really say, but I'll definitely say it's there.
Mythwist, sorry, just to ask, Mythwist, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
24.
24. Okay, calm. So fair enough. So you're saying that, for example, if the dude is 35, I mean 35, 36, around there, when they interact with, so you're saying any guy older than you, basically, who's come and seen you with other women around that age, 24?
No, not any. Most guys older than me are fine. Most of them are just normal. They're regular. You know, if anything, they'll give me props and be like, oh, you know, you're doing good for a young man, right? Yeah. What I'm saying is that just to Vincent's question, where he was asking if there's some guys like that, like, yeah, there are for sure, because I've also dealt with the other side of it. I just can't 100%. Say, in my personal experience, it's less.
I was going to say, do you think it's the majority or the minority? That's all.
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
But again, I can't know. But no, I wouldn't say my experience has been the majority.
Okay.
So
now, to be honest, like with me, you know, if I don't find, if you know, I'm 25. Wait, Myth Twist, you're born in 1997, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You're probably 96, I think, because you're like 25 or something.
Yeah, I'm 96. Yeah. Thing is with me, man. Like, if I'm not with anyone by the time I'm 30 and I'm just single, I would. If I was 32, I would still go for like 20-year-old, 21-year-old, but not
Are
for a
you
relationship, just
serious?
for fun.
Yeah.
Why?
That's it.
That's too young for me.
But why would you
Bro,
do that?
if you're trying to pipe, then I don't think it's young.
Yeah.
For a little like 6-month relationship, and then
But that's
I see a 20-year-old looking
Timestamp.
like I think they're like 16. I don't know what it is, but you know, when you get older,
right. I know. I agree.
you
I
younger
agree.
people younger than they are. I never got this because when I was like 16, someone or 18, someone said, "Oh, you look 16." I'm like, no, I'm not. I get it now. Once I'm older, I see people who are like 20, 21. I'm like, you're not 21. You're like 18.
Right.
Or so when they 20, I see him. So especially because I like thicker women. I don't like scrawny
Oh,
women.
do you?
Yeah,
Oh.
and women who are that age, like tiny. There's a thing there where guys like younger women, and they're all these like they look like, for me, prepubescent boys. I don't know.
Can I ask
Damn,
you
son.
real quick? Why it matters? How old are you?
32.
32. Okay, so a 20-year-old or 21-year-old, because from my experience, I'm turning 27, and I thought I would not date a woman younger than like 25, 24 at this point. But then when I met some 20-year-olds, they tend to act more mature. So it really depends on the type of girl you come across at that age. Yeah, in general, they are more immature, but then a lot of them try and cater themselves to older men, so they behave a certain way to sort of
They pattern up.
But hold out,
right?
there's a difference though, isn't
Right.
it, between your age of like 24 and my age difference, 20-year-old.
Yeah, I'm 27, but yeah.
If a woman's like 24 or above, cool. I'm all right with that sort of stuff. But yeah, if there's a connection there, I get you. But even for me, I have certain rules. I'm like, that's just nah.
No, I hear you. For me, my limit is just 4 years younger than me, so that's like an 18-year-old will be the limit. I can't go more than that at most.
Just
So
wait,
if you
bro.
were- but
Just wait.
if-
Just
okay,
wait, my
so-
guy. Trust me.
So
Wait,
hold
what?
on. So if you was like 50 years old, you're telling me you'd only go for a woman who's 46. You wouldn't go for a woman who's like 30 or 35.
So like
Because I
45.
think the age range we're looking at,
Mhm.
it's like
changes
it's
depending
like there's
on
a
what-
big difference. You know what I mean? Like when someone's 18 till even up until your early 20s, you're quite different. Whereas I don't think there's as much of a jump sometimes, like in the mentality, as what I'm saying. Because I think with older guys, a lot of them want, from what I've seen, and it's one of my biggest points of contention with when I hear guys say like, "Oh, older men want young women." I'm like, bro, like, okay, listen. From what I'm seeing, most older guys want a woman who they can connect with intellectually, like when they're older. I think that the young thing is just coming from, again, like just reliving youth or things they missed out on or whatever. But when it comes down to getting with someone, it seems like most older guys want a woman who's mature. And if the woman is like 19, I mean, let's just be real. Most of the time, she's not going to have that mental maturity that the guy's talking about. And so a lot of them usually, from what I've heard from all the guys, it is usually, I want someone who's, 28, 29, if they're in their 30s. If you can go lower than that, but it's more to do with the maturity level more than anything else. And so when guys are like 40 or 50, to them, a young woman is a woman in her 30s, which is another reason why when guys say if a woman's over 30, no one wants her. It's like, well, it depends on what kinds of guys you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, because again, even a guy in his 30s, if he's 38, 32, 31, is still younger than him.
Okay.
So I think that from what I've seen, that's usually where most guys go. They don't go through this 10, 15, 20-year gap. That seems to be more outliers.
But to be honest, sorry, just to chime in here. So what I found as well is that usually when I speak to older men, their general kind of thought would be the older the woman is, the more experience she's had, the more she's been through, etc. So she comes with more baggage. So it's more stress, basically. So the younger the woman is, they usually come with less stress. They can be mature at 23, 24 as well. It's just a case of, they prefer the younger because they usually, again, they're more fit as well. Generally speaking, they're more feminine. They haven't had that many, they don't come with as much baggage as well. So that's also just one point to consider, just in the sense of picking the younger woman, over the older or closer to the age. Because
I
at that age,
I mean,
I think from the conversation I've heard, I think a lot of it is just down to one factor: does the woman have kids? I think if the woman doesn't have kids, I don't think as much as a factor. I think it's just the kids thing. That's the baggage part. Because I've heard a lot
that over 30, that's the case.
yeah, usually
that's the main bone of contention. Because I know a lot of guys say a lot of things, but even I suppose even single mothers, a lot of guys are still wifing up. So I don't know.
Yeah, like this is my thing. Like this is why I'm not really hearing it, because the way I see it is most of these older guys are still wifing up these women one way or another. And to me, the only reason why a lot of these women aren't getting married is because they don't want to settle for certain types of guys. I don't think it's because, you know, guys are leaving in droves and no, most guys, you know, they will take these women in because a lot of them are sex deprived and affection deprived. So if they meet a woman who's a single mum, but she's being catering towards them, a lot of them are just going to get whipped and they're going to wife it up. That's just what's going to happen. Like, and it's, I think it's just a lot of guys are just trying to make themselves feel better about the fact that they're single. And I'm not trying to hate on them, but I'm just saying that, like, that's just honestly what it is. You know, I've got friends, like, even at my age who try doing this, you know, they're like, oh, yeah, I could get a girl, but, you know, I'm da-da-da. And I'm just like, bro, no, like, girls aren't checking for you right now. That's just the facts. It's just the truth. Like, they're not.
You're not wrong.
You know? And it's
you're not
just,
wrong.
I don't know why
right.
guys always got to try and pretend like it's, you know, and women do it as well. Don't get me wrong. They do it as well. We know they're delusional. But if I'm honest with you, I think they're just delusional about getting their ideal. They're not delusional about, like, for example, if a woman says, I could get married tomorrow if I want, she isn't entirely wrong. Maybe not tomorrow, but she could get married quick. It's just, it wouldn't be to the ideal guy that she wants. That's where women get messed up. It's their own personal standards. That's what's messing them up. It's not the fact that no one's going to take them. So that's just some BS. Like, when guys are like, no, you're a single mother, it's a rap. It's not a rap, okay? Even with a guy who's making money, it's still not a rap. There's guys with money that will still do it. So it's just that it's their behavior. That's what the issue is. They're not willing to. The problem is that you're a single mother and you've got an attitude. That's the issue. Like, if you're just a single mother and you're humble about it, you're already going to beat a lot of women. I'm just going to be honest, because for a lot of these guys, they'll take it. I ain't going to take it, but
I was about to say.
That's
I was like,
me.
the way you were
Like,
talking,
you know,
you were ready.
I'm not gonna know, but I'm saying this because I'm so strongly against it, and I see most guys aren't strongly against it. That, you know, like, they're not, and I know, because when I bring up this stuff to people in real life, a lot of guys are like, man, you think it's a bit extreme, man. If she's a good woman, I'm like, bro, like, what? You know, so I know most guys will do it, so that's why I'm just like, no.
But do you not think that's because the average man can only, basically, I had a phrase at uni, actually. It was, most guys get what they can and not what they want. So
I think that's most people.
Exactly. So obviously the average guy, obviously he's dreaming of getting that, you know,
relied on their options.
Exactly. But they really have no options. So they got no choice. So therefore the single mother is the only one who's available. So they're like, I'll settle. It's fine. I'll take that, you know, and it is what it is at the end of the day. That's the harsh reality. But, you know, the whole point is, you know, I guess the whole point of the channel and the whole point is to, how do you say, increase your options. That's the aim, and that's the strat. I mean, that's the goal, I suppose. So I don't know. I don't know. I just don't. I don't agree with telling people that, okay, this is what you. I mean, I don't agree with putting someone in a box and then saying, okay, look, you're currently in. I get that you have to put someone in a box and say, okay, look, if you're in this category, you usually are entitled to X, Y, Z, right? And there are times where, you know, you can be an outlier per se, but also you should say there's a way to get out of that box, and you can exercise your options and go about it that way. So complaining is one thing, but then, you know, just giving them a way out / you know, showing them the way is another too. If that makes sense. I'm just trying to say that basically it's not the only route to take. That's all.
No, you provided more clarity to that. I think, yes, it boils down to this, like, men go for the options they have, they settle, while women tend to, you know, hesitate on that. Like you said, Myth Twist, women just don't settle. You know, they think that maybe they're above average, they can do better, but overall they still hold back, while men just pick on it. Like me and Mystic Moose on our platform, Not Your Average Joes, we actually interviewed a guy who admitted to marrying a woman who had 7 kids. He had kids,
I
he
was
felt,
livid.
yeah,
Told you,
yeah,
bro.
he
I
married.
told you.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously regrets it. He shared that with us to just let us know that at that
7
stage he
kids.
felt that that was his option, and he just accepted it. And gladly he divorced and didn't have any kids with her. So luckily he could start again afresh and learn from his mistakes and go by his way, while she's dealing with her own situation. But that's another story there. But then that's it. Men go for their options, and a lot of the times we just discuss how either a man levels up or he works on his game. A lot of men are in a position where they live comfortably, but they don't compete in the sort of sexual marketplace where more women pursue guys who earn more, who look better, who whatever, 6'3", all those standards. While some men might maneuver by being, womanizers who know how to flirt, who just have game, right? And they don't even have to have a job. So, that's the perspective we kind of want to lay out. Like, we've kind of defined it differently on me, how I see it, and how Why It Matters sees it. Culturally speaking, it also affects us too. Is it driven by money, or is it driven by love, or a real genuine interest in the woman? So you can lay out as much as you can, but in essence, it's really down to the market value everyone has, a man or a woman, what options they have. So overall,
And who do
that covers it.
who do you think determines the market value?
Who determines the market value
for
like
in the sexual? We got the sexual market. Who determines the market value? Us or them?
Men definitely do.
I'll say
At the
men.
end of the day.
Yeah, men.
Yeah.
Men do. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
why would you say
yeah,
that? And why, just out of interest, I just want to, because I know the Duke, obviously you watch Red Pill, so you know that already. But I'm just wondering, out of you guys, do you know why that is as well?
Well, look at the demand for younger women, right? It's because of fertility and youthfulness, isn't it?
Right.
And they're more easy to mold, I guess. So, I don't know. I'm as twist.
No, it's both, because they're two distinct things. There's relationship value, and then there's just sexual market value. And in terms of the sexual market value, it's women. And if it wasn't, the guys would
so
be
women
sitting
determine their own value in the sexual marketplace.
Wait, what? Go on.
Yeah, in the sense of what? All right. So when you're talking about sexual market value, I'm talking in the sense of sex isn't one-sided, right? So you're talking about people coming together for something. A lot of guys are attracted to most women. Most women are not attracted to most guys. So most guys can't just go in and get something that they want to get, because at the end of the day, most women aren't doing it, regardless of what they look like. The woman's, you could say, oh, well, she's a 5 in a sexual marketplace, but she doesn't view herself like that. She views herself like she's a 7. Okay, and because she views herself as a 7, she's gonna lock out a guy who she should be equal to. So they are the ones determining it, because you can't, unless you're gonna just start raping them, you can't force them to get with you if they're not interested. And if they're not interested, you can't build it to the point of a relationship. So this is the entire reason why guys are online saying, oh, these girls are like this, they're only going for the top 10%. If it was men determining the market, this wouldn't be a problem. So it can't possibly be guys who are doing it. The only thing guys determine is who's getting married. But they don't determine who's sleeping with who.
That's where
not
we
up to me.
see. Yeah, that's where we draw the line. I think we also include sexual market value in terms of long-term relationship commitment, exactly. Marriage. Because at the end of the day, look, a woman can freely open herself to any man she wants, but a lot of the time she wants a guy who she can keep, right? And so when it comes to a long-term situation, that's where the market is valued upon, while men have to kind of show that they can offer that too. So overall, yes, there's a different avenue for guys who could just get girls, smash, and move on. But women don't need to play that game. She can look like flipping, what's her name? The big singer, Lizzo. She can Lizzo and can get any guy to smash her. Even the wealthiest guy.
This was going to say the sexual market value is determined by both parties. I mean, we could argue about what weighting it is, but the reason why I say that is because men approach on our most average. So women are looking at what guys are approaching, which is why women are trying to look all the same, because they see that men are approaching the same type of women trying to get, BBLs, all these kind of other things, because that's what the I suppose the guys are telling people we like women who look like this. I know sometimes they do something that we don't agree, that we don't like, but I always think it's a bit of both. And then the women, they also control exactly how men should approach, how they like, because the women who entertain the guys who approach, they're like, oh, you like those type of guys who approach you, like that type of, I don't know. I'll see it as a bit of a dual threat where we both rely on each other to give us feedback and pushback as to what we like and what we don't like. So I don't know.
So I'll give you. Can I give you a scenario? So let's say you've got a woman and she's like, I'm a 7 out of 10, right? And then she goes out thinking she's a 7 out of 10, and she doesn't get the results though of a 7 out of 10 because for whatever reason she's not viewed that way. I mean, usually this is what happens: is she's not viewed that way. Because you get everyone, you've got all the guys saying, all the women saying, oh yes, queen, no, you're 10 out of 10, you're 9 out of 10, you're this, you're that. But in actual fact, they're clapped, right? So at that point, would you still say that the woman is determining the sexual market value? Because that's the situation that happens. Women are going out.
That's
let's say
they get dolled up. Topic, in fact.
Yeah, so they get dolled up. Yeah, so they get dolled up. They go out to a party or whatever. They think they're 7, 8, 9 out of 10. You tell them they're in fact a 4 or 5. They get heated. They don't. Again, like I said, you should be getting 7 to 8, 9 out of 10 results. Do you know what I mean? But they're not.
And this is what I mean when the dual part of it comes into it, because it's the men on average who the women.
Because we're the main consumer. We're the main consumers of female beauty.
And this is where things like colorism comes into place, because what are dark skinned women are complaining about? The men are approaching the dark skinned women, the men are light skinned women. So what do women do as a response? They want to lighten the skin, bleach their skin, because they want to get the men approaching them. Now I know women do approach men, but on average, the majority of the time, that's how it is. So it's that back and forth. And then from the guy's perspective, when they do approach all these women, the women are only accepting certain type of men because they get approached by all these type of men. So that's where it's a dual threat. But to answer your question, she would have to either be really stubborn to not understand she ain't who she thinks she is, or she's likely to have to change because her situation, because she's not getting to get guys to approach her. That's what she'll have to do.
All right. Okay.
Just also a question, right? When you said someone like Lizzo, she would get banged, right? The Duke, right? Do you think, let's say that she remains single and doesn't get in a relationship, and she's what, a 60, 70-year-old? Do you think any man would still want to smash it, even men her own age, when she gets to that age? That's why
without getting caught. Yes, definitely.
Okay, fine.
I don't know, but
I going on that quest.
Right.
I know where's that come from?
That's why I'm still standing.
No, I'm saying I don't know who's going to go do that, man. Like, I mean, I can believe there are guys who do it, but man, I don't want to know who they are.
Like even in let me even add on to that as well. Even for a woman in her position, like she obviously has a lot of money. She has status. I mean, she's overweight. But there are men who would play the opportunist, and they do. Like, what's her name? The actress, the one that played Precious. Didn't she get married last year to that one white guy? She's still large, and she got with this regular looking guy. He probably doesn't earn as much as she does. That was an opportunist. So these women can eventually settle down with whoever. It's just that the idea that they don't have any options. It depends. It really depends. And that's what I'm saying. Women have more than enough to choose. Just Twist, you made that point too earlier on, that a lot of the times it's that women just don't choose to settle. They have choices. They just don't choose to settle for those choices. They want more.
I know girls right now who be classified as model good looks or whatever, who literally say there's no guys out here that want them. They genuinely believe that. Yes, they genuinely believe that shit. And I
was like, no guys that they want.
Exactly.
Well, but even you see, but this is the thing though, like
tunnel vision.
It's like, here's the thing though, because they are attractive, the guys that they find attractive do usually like them. So it's not that guys don't like them or whatever. The issue is that they have some crazy, unrealistic idea of what's possible. Because here's what you got to think. So if you take a girl who's, like I said earlier, you'll have girls who are just, they're not looking all that. But in their heads, it's like, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that, and I deserve this guy, right? They think they deserve good-looking guys, but they're like a 5 or whatever, Okay, so if the 5 walks around like that, and her expectations is way above, you might say, her station or whatever, what do you think a girl who's actually up there is gonna have? Her standards, not all of them, because a lot of them are quite humble, to be fair, but there are some of them where they've bought into the same hype that the 5's bought into, but they know they look better than the 5. So they're
Which
thinking,
means
well,
they'll
if
get the
5
result.
But this is the thing. They're not aiming for the same thing as the 5 because they're looking. Because it took me a while to understand where this was coming from, but I kind of get it now. Like they're looking at this girl who's a 5 or whatever, and the problem is that, like, the problem is that there are girls who are just don't look all that.
Oh my gosh!
Like that.
Oh.
So there's girls who I mean, maybe not that bad, but there's girls who don't look all that, and they can get a dude who's that attractive girl who's an 8 or 9. She might think, oh, I wouldn't mind being with him. But when she sees that caliber of guy is willing to go for a girl like that, she starts thinking, well, maybe I need to up my price then, right? So, but the problem is that she's upping it to a level that's just unrealistic, and
so
this
we won't buy.
I'm seeing.
So we won't buy. That's what happens.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. But what I'm saying though, and that's why a lot of those girls are just gonna, unfortunately, they're going to be chilling on their own. But what I'm saying is,
I think it's the other way around a little more in most cases, where the very attractive women, they actually are a lot more realistic because they don't get approached as much as the ones who are in that safe range, where guys like, you know, I can probably get this woman better because
I don't know, bro. Not in my age group. I don't know, but I think it depends, because with social media, some of them are just gassed up to the next level. It really depends.
I've seen some IG models. I'm like, whoa, and I've seen their partner. I'm like, oh, really? And like Alicia Dixon's partner, I look at her and she's attractive, attractive. She's obviously, I think she's like 35, but she's attractive. You look at her partner, he's not like rich or successful or like model good looking.
Yeah, but when women are older, though, they're gonna lower this. They become more sensible.
She can get Alicia Dixon at her age. She can get a lot of men who are better state. I don't care. She still looks good.
But the thing is that that's your opinion as the guy, though. You see, like, girls don't look at relationships the way we always look at them. Like, we might logically sit there and say, "Oh, you could get better than that." They don't always view it like that.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, isn't it? She's got a guy who I thought she could get better than. So that's a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say. That's a good thing, because however she sees herself, it's with a guy who I thought would be a lot better. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying the girl who is like that, she may have a different opinion of the matter because of, again, a couple of things. She may not get approached as much. She may not have the standards that we perceive her to be. Whereas the woman, and she less, it's like, yeah, she gets approached all the time because guys are like, oh, I can get her easy. I'm like, yeah, that's how I've seen a lot of things.
He's probably got a lot of chat, you know. I'm looking at this guy. He looks like he's sourcing.
He compensated for what else like a guy would need to have, right?
I don't think I've heard of the guy before, but he ain't.
Balling, no.
Yeah, I think her net worth is bigger than his net worth.
Definitely.
So money wise, so he's leading. So that means he must bring value in another way.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't
even if he's probably dicking it down on a different level.
Yeah,
100%.
Sweet word, game. I mean, that's
you just got that raw game.
Overall point we made. Hello, Angleton. Do you have any input to this discussion? How are you?
Yo, man. Yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, good panel so far. I haven't got much to say, but one thing I can say is that, yeah, some of these ladies out here are extremely fucking delusional. Because, like, I've had a couple situations where I've gone to, like, certain gatherings. I'm not saying I'm, like, super good looking, but I'm definitely above the women that are trying to approach me. And I'm just thinking, like, how the fuck would I get with you? Like, what is the world coming to?
Yo, did you drink? Were you drinking?
Huh?
This is what a lot of women must think, I bet you. This is what a lot of women must think. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm completely sober. Like, I went to this party. It's like fat white girl with ginger hair. Was like, oh, you look so nice. We should be together. This, that, and I'm like, no, we shouldn't. Like, I'm not super good looking, but like, come on, man. Let's be realistic. Let's be real. And even this other girl that I know, she's always trying to chase these guys, and I'm like, they're a bit out of your league. Like, come on, like, let's be realistic. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like there's a lot of delusion. I think it's like this matrix we're living in. It's like people are just getting false ideals all the time. Like,
do you see that, Anderson, do you see that we're more with the women, like I saying, who's on the lesser scale attractiveness, as opposed
with the men who are
above, with the more attractive women who don't seem to be on that sort of stuff? Because
I think it's both.
Okay.
Yep, it is both. It is.
Yeah.
And it's only when it's just that, and I said this before. There are girls that are older. There are girls that are good looking that are humble. It's the same thing like with girls who are like taller. A lot of them tend to not be as fussy about height because they know that it's just realistically, if they're quite tall, they've just got lesser options. But the fact of the matter is that it depends, because I'm just saying that like in this age bracket I'm in with a lot of these young girls coming up, they are, a lot of them, they view themselves as certain, and if they are actually attractive, they do look at it that way, and they don't view it the same. Like, for example, I've seen them with plenty of guys, right? Even with myself, times where there's certain girls I've been with, and I know people are probably thinking like, oh, how did you get with her, or whatever. And the fact of the matter is the girl in that moment doesn't view it like how we do. They just think, oh, he makes me feel this way, blah, blah, blah. But they still, it's this weird contradictory mindset, because they still have these crazy ideas of what you need to do. So if you're not looking a certain type of way, you better be coming correct with like a whole bunch of other things. You know what I mean? So as opposed to, before, it may not have been that insane. It would have just been like, oh, you're a good dude, and da-da-da. There's still girls like that, but I'm gonna just be honest, with girls more around my age bracket, man, boy.
That's fair. That's a fair point. And yeah, overall, we do know women do attempt to date up, and it continues that way. And I guess there needs to be a reality check. Women need to know what position they're in the sexual marketplace, or just knowing that if they're average, they might be better off with an average man. And
can I ask a question real quick? Yo, the Duke, sorry to cut you off. Whose job is it to put it? Whose job is it to put them in their place?
Kevin Samuels, not joking. It might as well be. It's got a million subs.
Just think about it. Imagine you're at a party, right? You yourself, like you said, look, let's see, Angleton. He's come in. He said, I'm not like, I'm good looking, but I'm not like the best in the world or whatever. Yeah, right. So you put yourself immediately above 5, below 8, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're like, any woman that comes up to you who's below that standard, are you gonna outrightly start from now on saying to her face, I'm sorry, you're not, we're just not compatible. This is not on my level.
No, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm not that harsh, like.
So you'll get with her anyway?
I'll politely sort of, I won't directly be like, I don't want you, unless she starts pissing me off, but I'll kind of just let it kind of be known that I'm not that interested, but in a polite way, yeah. But I probably wouldn't get with her, though, no.
Because most dudes will enable this behavior. That's the problem. So
yeah, no, I've done it in the past, and sometimes, like friends with benefits can kind of manifest from that. But yeah, nowadays, though, I'll probably just sort of say, it would be known that I'm not interested.
And this is what I was saying, going back to the title of the stream, that the Black Male Simp. I was saying this is the problem, where I say enable it, but how can at one hand we're saying, oh, you should know your place, but in the same token we're saying, yeah, but I still sleep with you, I still have friends with benefits, I still do all this stuff with you.
Because most dudes are like that. Like, you hear the talk. You do hear the talk, isn't it?
Contradiction, man. It's like, that's what a lot of guys like, man, I have no, I say I know no sympathy for them, but it's just like, this is the reason why we have this situation, because you inflate their egos, because if they get a dick, they think they're doing something right, at least.
Yeah,
it's different. It's because they don't understand the game. That's why the game for men, the game for men and women.
There is that, but I do think that to an extent, like, they're entertaining it because, again, like we said, it's settling for what they think they can get. A lot of guys seem to have some self-worth issues. They don't seem to view themselves like, oh, I can just get any girl I want. I can just get her. you know, a model. They don't think like that. That's why a lot of these guys are willing to settle for getting feet pictures from girls online, like, because you know, they think like.
I think what it is.
I just think guys are just more thirsty like that. I say more guys are just willing to stretch the bounds, because especially nowadays it's so accessible that it's just like it's just open market, it's open field. That's what I think it is.
But that's the thing. It's more accessible, like, to get like in terms of interaction, but content, like online interaction. But in real life, not so much. Like, a lot of these guys aren't really talking to girls like that. They're shut-ins. They're just playing games all day. They're not doing as much. And because there's not really any system in society to set them up with a woman, they ain't, you know, they're not getting any of that exposure to women like that. Like, and this is what I've said before, but a lot of guys are just affection starved. They don't know what it's like to even get genuine attraction from a woman at all. Like, it's not even uncommon for guys to be making it to their 30s and stuff now, and they're like, oh, I've never had a girlfriend. I'm like, wow, you know, like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's just insane. I'm thinking, how have you gotten that far and never had just a girlfriend before? But it's becoming just normal. You know, you look in older generations, dudes was in marriages around my age. It wasn't that was more normal. But because of how things are now, if you're a guy and you don't proactively try to get with women, and like if you're just a regular guy and you're not proactive about it, most of the time nothing's really gonna happen, right? And because of how our lifestyles are, especially after last year with the whole social distancing and stuff like that, it's just like there's more and more things that push people to not interact as much. And so it creates this thing where if you're not a guy where you go out, like, for example, like what Angleton was saying, right? If you go, like what he's saying, he'll go to a party and certain types of girls might come up to him, whatever, right? But like, I would assume if you're someone who's above average in looks as a guy, like, when you go out, you'll get girls looking at you. You won't have to, like, you know what I mean? And then from there, it's a simple matter of talking to them, right? So, but because you get attraction anyway, it's not so bad. But for most guys, they don't get that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have those looks. So they just have to kind of get in where they fit in. And what they're finding is that they don't fit in a lot of places. You know what I mean? So that's why they're willing to resort to these things like, well, I'll just pay for OnlyFans so I can DM her, or I'll look at girls on Instagram or whatever. Because for them, that's the closest they're getting to something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what it is for me, I'll quickly say, like, sometimes I get a bit paranoid because, like, being a man of color, sometimes I find certain types of women are comfortable coming towards me, but they wouldn't go towards the white boy standing over there. So sometimes I look at it and I'm like,
take advantage of the situation.
Okay. I've had that at work where a white woman's asked me out and stuff. I was like, oh.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because there's a stereotype there, let's be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And well, what are you going to say, Vincent?
Make you feel?
How does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's not something that directly I can discern. Like, it's kind of.
It doesn't fill your self-esteem with points. Let's just put it that way. It kind of, like, I feel like a woman. It's like that shows me my value. Do you see what I'm saying? You know how women get upset when certain guys approach them, and guys like, why are you getting so upset for? It's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
What it is you're telling that woman, this is the best that I can attract. I know that's not what you're saying, but that's essentially what's happening. Right. So once a woman who you feel is not on your level comes up to you, you think, is that who I am? Is that, and especially when you've had situations at work where, I think you'd be a great couple together. Says who? Like, seriously, I've had what?
I find it confusing because, like, I've had like 10 out of 10 chicks looking at me, and then sometimes I'll have like 3 out of 10 chicks. It's confusing. Like, there's like really nice ones and then really bad ones. I don't really know where I stand, but it's not just about looks as well. It's also about, like, there's racial components and cultural components.
Explain. To me, that all goes into looks, though, because if you look, like, that's what's drawing the looks to you. You know what I mean? Is that your race and how they're perceiving you culturally. Like, if you got 2 black guys, one's dressed one way, one's dressed another way, they're going to draw different looks depending, unless the girl just likes black guys, period. You know what I mean? So That's another thing as well. Like just the looks thing in general is down to not just how you look like, physically, but yeah. So it's those other things as well that you mentioned.
When you said the race thing, right, Angleton, right? I'm assuming it's white women, right? Do they look like the Queen of Spade types or the Snow Bunny types?
Lord.
I was about to say.
Well, I mean, what you talk about from a general point of view.
Yes.
It's honestly, mate, it's a mixture. Like I've had like I said, I've had 10 out of 10s, and then I've had like the types that look like they could be Cat Slater's mum. Like, it's I mean the one at the party that I was specifically talking about, she was like probably, Adele. Actually, no, not even her, man. She just looked like trash, man. Like, I almost
said Adele
couldn't
and then
believe
said she looked like trash. Wow.
Yeah. Maybe not Adele, but it was definitely.
And you're
trash.
talking about Adele pre weight loss. You're talking about Adele, isn't it?
Because Adele now is looking.
Right. But
the other day, I was sitting in a park and I was looking at this woman. She was like jogging and that, and like she was like a gorgeous, and she was looking at me. So like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of varies, but I also do just think, being a man of color, even if you're a 10 out of 10 man of color, there are white women out there that are trashy that still think they can bag you because they see you as lesser than them. And that's
very quickly. So
they're just trying to shoot their shot. Like, for example, a guy who looks at a woman who's fine and think, I'm just going to shoot my shot. But I do get the racial element where they do feel as if you're more gettable. Let's just say that.
Right. Again, right, would you say it plays into fetishization or what?
Wait. Why it matters? Did you say more what?
Gettable. So.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I see a lot of black guys with some questionable white women, so they see that and think, let me see if I can get this.
Yeah, like I've seen black guys that look like they could get like, some good women. I see them with trash. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yep. So that fuels into why a lot of these women probably will approach you then, because they're like, I've seen that, so let me get a piece of that.
No, I don't know. I'm just paranoid, man. I don't trust anyone. Like every time I meet people, I'm just like, I don't know what you want. Do you like? What do you want? Like, I don't trust anyone.
You see, this is the major point we have to make when it comes to setting standards. And if in different racial groups, black men are more accepting of different sizes, as for some reason that's the narrative, then you have these women approaching us, and that's the whole point about how we allow certain points of view to dictate how women view us. So if black men are doing certain things to allow the big woman to approach us more, then that's the whole sort of point, especially for this topic I raised, is especially if we lie to women and give them the idea that yes, you can approach us, or yes, we're going to offer you the world, even though we want a 10 out of 10, that's where this problem lies. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like we're not being realistic to the women because we're just lying to them, essentially.
But like I was saying with the simp, again, the reason why black women are more overweight is because black men like a lot of fat women.
We allow it. It.
Exactly. We call them thick.
Sorry, just to clarify, why it matters. When you're saying simp, can you define your definition of that real quick? Because I wasn't here at the beginning of the stream, so I don't know if anyone clarified.
Yeah, no worries. So simp is a guy who is doing too much to a woman who's not reciprocating. That's the overall gender.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, understandable. Right.
Agreed.
Because I was going to say, if it's your girlfriend or your wife, then
no. I know that.
That's outside. Yeah.
Some people do call it simping, and I don't agree with that.
It's weird. Yeah, I'm like, I don't agree with that. That definition.
No, that depends though. It depends, because if the guy's in a relation with a girl and the girl doesn't respect him, then I would still call it simp.
But that's what I mean when I say reciprocated.
Sure. Yeah. It's not reciprocated. So if your partner is doing also the same thing, like let's say because usually what they'll show is the guy getting her flowers, right? And then they'll be like, that's a simp. But then what they won't show is that she's like, I don't know, cleaned all the house, or I don't know, made dinner or whatever, paid for the last meal, or so be it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know what, Mr. Moose? I would say that's very surface level, because people who might live contemporary, they're just doing that. You know, there's just like a tweet, oh, he's simping. But in general, when we talk about this idea of simping, we dig deeper than that. You know, like how do we allow ourselves to sort of I guess manipulate women into believing everything they do is right, and then they don't have to reciprocate anything. So did you want to add anything, White Matters?
It's similar to you, bro. Just like you were allowing the behavior.
Right.
No, I actually think I forgot my train of thought, but no. Nothing to add right now.
Yeah, when we spoke about how simping is, and I believe it's a problem in our community because we kind of we are enablers at the end of the day. Men are enablers in our community. If you know, white and Asian men say they want their women to look a certain way and they have a higher standard than we do, that's a problem because we want to kind of worship women regardless of how they look. That is a problem. Is it because we're trying to uplift our women, or we're giving them an unrealistic goal in life if we want to settle with them, if we want to marry them, and all that kind of stuff, right?
I was going to say it's funny you say that because if you ask a lot of women though, they'll say that it's the opposite. They'll say that they're not uplifted and that, you know, black guys are unreasonable and that, you know what I mean? So
because
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that, but I'm just saying though, like that's like the counter narrative, and that's kind of the issue. Is that because with what you're saying, it's like black guys should have higher standards, which I agree with.
Yes.
But then we're kind of getting accused of having the higher standards already when quite clearly we don't. So it's really odd.
That's why I say we shouldn't listen to them because a lot of the time it's from feeling.
I agree.
It's from feeling. It's from the like a lot of the time the demands that are being made are unrealistic. So even if we are saying Nubian Queen, Mother God, Earth to our women, it won't be enough because I've never seen any other group of men do the same thing or say the same thing on social media. Or none of that. So exactly who isn't doing what we're meant to be doing? It really comes down to what we enable in our community. So that's one story. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, on that, I think that the issue is, and this is just not our fault, it's the fact that the standard of beauty is not black dominated or Afro dominated features.
Right.
So because the white man and the white woman are the standard when it comes to pretty much everything, particularly in the case of beauty, the white women and black women don't have, because even like Asian women, they still have the long hair, they still have the thinner
fairer skin.
Yeah, they're closer to it.
Yeah, so they can still have that white passing features, depending how light they are or how European they look. Whereas a black woman, no, there's no chance, and that's just not our fault. The hair grows differently, skin tone, everything. So yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. To add to what you said, and sorry guys, again, we'll have like 10 minutes left and then we will end the show. But thanks you guys for coming in. Yeah, this was great. When it comes down to that, I'm gonna add on to what you just said, why it matters. We kind of yes, with the beauty standards in the West and basically all over the world, I believe there was a stage in, you know, maybe the last 50, 60 years where the standards were higher for black women, like in terms of, let's start with weight. You know, black women were actually more thinner and fitter before, you know, this huge change in our diet when it comes to fast foods and all of that. And then when it comes to hair as well, being natural was a beauty standard, in my opinion. I actually did a video on that a while back where it's actually changed and it's not to attract us. I don't know, you know, what they're trying to attract now. All this, you know, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, not just modern looks, but character. Like, who are they performing to? Like, who are they trying to attract? Are men into that? Or are men into just WAP instead of all the other characters? Or are we just allowing that to be the standard today? So that's one point to be made about, you know, what are we allowing in our own, you know, families, in our, when it comes to us dating within our culture and race, you know? Anyone want to add anything to that before we?
To be honest, I think right now the guys that have probably the strongest standards are Asian, and I'm talking all types of Asian. Because to be honest, even white,
100%.
You know, it's like there's some of them. It depends. There's some of them where they're like that. I think white guys are more strict, from what I've seen. A bit more, I'd say, racial wise. Like,
Right.
if they see a girl and she's like mixed, to them, that's just like, oh, she's a black chick, right? And they just may not be into that straight away. You know what I mean? As opposed to, they're okay with like Asian, like Oriental girls and stuff and whatever. But that's why I mainly see more standards in terms of race and more so than even weight. I think sometimes
So
like
skin tone, huh?
Yeah, like I'm not saying there ain't none that. Again, it's going to be subjective, but you have to think. I mean, you know, like a lot of women, regardless, white, black, a lot of them, you know, a lot of these white women out here ain't in the greatest shape of their life either. You know what I mean? Like they ain't looking all that. You know what I mean? But I don't know. So it's like I don't think every guy
just to add to that though, there's still a standard for them, and they are more pressured than you know in our community to look a certain way, to be in shape, to always go into the gym. And if they don't, they suffer from anorexia. So
that's a white problem. Believe me, that's more of a white problem. So white women will be more, oh, I'm fat.
Pressured, yeah. So that's what we see. Anything else? Oh yeah, and do you guys think that maybe we should have a standard as strict as Vincent to get to a certain point to, I guess, improve?
Wait, you mean cut them off if they're over a certain weight?
No.
Yeah, man. I'm with Vincent. I like Vincent's way of thinking. It's cool.
Well, I mean, if you mean his specific standards, hell no, because then none of us will be reproducing.
Size 2.
You talking about having slim black women?
He was 5'9". You know what I mean?
Like he's like, she's got to be this tall, this weight. This person like is very like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I thought women are naturally curvaceous, so like.
Well, you can always get a curvy, skinny woman, so you know.
I agree. I told you a slim thick girl. You said she was too fat.
No. Slim thick is just fat in my opinion.
Oh, no, bro, that is there's no such thing as skinny fat's like no. That's worse than slim thick.
Oh, Memphis, she wasn't
like
here.
Someone...
Oh, you want to hear when the picture that Fiona showed a name of a person who Vincent was like, yeah, that's the one. I was like, she is not thick or curvy at all. She was
just flat.
Was it Jasmine? What's her name? Vince, do you remember? Jasmine Kendra or something?
Yeah, something like that. I think, yeah.
Wait, can we see a pic?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Snap it up. I'm gonna be here like, yo. Wait, so what height does she have to? You look at height as well, bro.
5'9". Yeah. 5'9".
She can't be under that.
No, she cannot. No. 5'9".
How is her surname?
Oh damn. Okay, I'm just more strict about like just size in general, like just size.
With me, it's also under a dress size 2 as well. So.
Oh snap!
I know that's what I mean.
Hey, I do not know.
How do you spell her name? Sorry, Vincent. How do you spell her name?
Let me put in the chat. Hold on.
Go on, yeah. And then someone like what's her name?
But the name I put in the chat is the one which one I'm recommending is one I told to Vincent, who I thought I called slim thick, so not crazy thick, slim. But Vincent is like,
oh, I'm so sorry, that's the wrong one. No, I'm so sorry.
I can't find. Yeah, let me put Uchemba and see what it matters.
Oh, it's spelled with an A at the end instead of an E, but you'll get it. It's fine. You can type it.
Oh, I've seen her. Oh yeah, she's popular on IG, bro.
Oh yeah,
okay. That's too thick. Too thick.
She's Nigerian and she's got
it's loading.
That is a big no for me. To me, thematically, that literally just ghetto to me. I'm sorry.
All right, hold on, but okay,
that's a lot of thickness.
But Vincent, if her boobs were smaller, would it still be a problem?
It's not really the boobs per se.
Do you not believe in thick thighs save lives? What the fuck?
I don't know. I'm sorry, to be honest.
Because I know some guys don't like big boobs, so I don't know if that's what it is. But
I don't mind that. But I'm just saying, for me, it's just
because they're not men.
For a woman to be having thick. A woman has no business having thick thighs. That is so unladylike. That's how I view it. But
I mean, like
women are built to have a lot more.
Exactly.
be thicker. Because
Women are supposed to be thinner than men. That's my opinion.
the proportions. I mean, proportions.
I
This
don't
is
know
so
if I
funny.
hold
I'm
that,
just,
man.
I'm
Like,
dying.
I don't know. I don't know if I hold that, man. Like, I don't know if I hold
let me
that.
think of someone even slimmer. Okay. Riley
So,
Montana. Have you heard of
I
her?
have your email, don't I?
Is it
You know
skinny?
what?
Oh, no,
You know
I
what?
don't know.
Hold on. I'm gonna send you something on Twitter.
I thought you said Anna Montana. I was like, yeah, I know her.
No.
I know Hannah Montana as well.
Yeah.
The Duke, hold on, the Duke. I'll send you something real quick. Just give me one.
All right.
Put in Ducky
Like
thought.
this
Ducky
skinny?
thought. Let's see whether that works.
That's too skinny, bro.
No, not to Vincent.
That's a
probably.
nice woman, though. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like-
she's very attractive. She's pretty, but just not my type of body, not body type.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna send a picture to you that I see as the ideal and what a real woman is supposed to look like.
I said a real.
Oh,
man.
snap.
Real.
Okay.
Real
Accentuate
woman.
that real.
One that every man should aspire.
Love it.
You know, Vincent, you are like the ideal guy to have as a wingman because we would not have any crossover. Like, you've never
No,
tried to
In
take
it, that's
any
what I'm
girls
saying.
from
You would
me.
literally be
I'd
going
be
for
like,
them ones in the
shit.
corner. I
Like,
really
I
like.
mean, you're gonna go home empty-handed, like 9 out of like 4.
That's fine.
Like, I mean, but you know,
we know what happened though.
that would be hilarious.
You know what happened though? Vincent will probably track the girls who you want, and you're like, you'll probably track the girls that he wants. He's like,
Right,
that's
trade.
that's
I'll
what
send
would
it
happen.
to you.
Oh yeah, I got it on Twitter. One sec.
No, I'm trying to go out with Angleton here. to see the type of girls he's getting, man.
No,
Wait, say that again. What?
No, I said I'm trying to go out with you, bro, to see what type of girls you're getting, just to see how many are you slapping down.
More Lizzos, yeah.
Oh,
Can
man,
you
it's-
showcase the Duke? Are you gonna show it?
Yeah, I'm about to find. I'm on the message. One sec.
Who is it? Who is it? Do you want to put them? Oh, you can just.
I've
He's-
shown it to
she's-
you already.
Yeah,
with
we've
Wine
seen
Man.
her. She uses the same pic. This one.
Oh, it's just loading. Yes. Now that
Calm.
is
Yeah.
That's blessed.
that is hot.
So
that
is
what
that
a
slim
real
thick?
woman is supposed to look.
That's not slim thick. That's just slim, bro. What?
Thank you.
This is what a real woman is supposed to look like.
Real.
But she has boobs. But she has quite nice. That's quite
Well,
Yeah.
Exactly. And do you
That's
see
a
how
girl.
That's a
thin?
push up,
Oh,
bro, for sure.
do you see how thin her waist is and her curve?
That's a girl, man. That ain't a woman.
Thank you.
Hold on. Who just said that? Who said that?
Angleton shit.
I wouldn't
so
look that far. I mean, I don't know.
Mid twist.
Bro,
So
I need
what's your thoughts on that?
a Miami stripper body, man.
Nah, bro.
Like them thick. Okay, I see that.
Yeah, my dick will stand to attention.
Bro, I swear.
Put my name in the back chat. Post find the images of this one in the chat. That's more Angleton style, I think.
Okay.
Wait, which one?
Linear curves. Okay.
Did you say back chat?
Let's see.
Let's see.
The private chat.
In the
private
back here we go the back chat.
I was thinking
this one, and he finds this one woman grotesque. So, yeah.
Oh god.
Mia
Protest,
Curves.
that's
Bro,
the
her
word he
name
would
is
use.
Curves. If she doesn't have any, I'm pissed.
No, not this one. I've seen her. Oh my lord.
Oh, bro, nah.
You like this Angleton?
This is BBL.
This is your type.
Nah.
That's
Is
you,
this
fam.
thick or is this fat? Is this thick or is this fat? Which one is it?
That's just fat,
Yeah,
bro.
That's
I
obesity,
like that.
That's obesity. That's just obesity.
Oh my
That's
god.
obesity.
Obesity with BBL.
She could still get it.
Damn. Who said she'll still get it? Wait, who said that?
Why don't you
Angleton.
start so big?
No, she'll get it. She would get it. Yeah, there's no question about it.
No, I mean, like
Boy, would
usually
you keep
I
it?
would like a bit smaller, but that's still enough.
She'll be a headache, isn't it? You can't. She's one of the women that you can't really walk around with a woman like that. But
I'd be embarrassed to be
Just
walking around
fun, huh?
with a woman like that. I don't know about you guys, but to me, that is just a serious downgrade. That's how I see it.
Nah,
the
bro.
skills, man.
That is not a long-term investment. That's all I know. That
Wait,
is
what
not
did you
a
say,
long-term
Mr.?
investment. I'd short that. That's what I do.
I
short
want
that.
to know what your
Yeah,
type is.
After
Mid-twist.
one child,
I'm
she's
sorted.
done after one kid. She's done after one kid. Honestly, God.
Exactly.
Wait,
She can't be
Mid-twist, I
able
want
to
to know
maintain
who
the shape.
is Mid-twist. Who is your
Just
type?
think,
I really
after
want
she
to
has a
know.
child, it's game over.
Don't worry about that, Vince. You asked me this before, and
You haven't ever shown. Like, I'm just asking, are you into more curvaceous women?
No, I've told you before. I like curvy chicks. That's what I like. That's why my standard's pretty much the same as most black guys. Like, it's just that, like, most black guys, they say, "Oh, I like a girl who's fit." Like, that's with me. I just don't. You see, like, this goes like her like, there's too much at the bottom for me, bro. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean, that just looks disproportionate. And usually, like, let's put it this way: if a girl, like, that's definitely some surgery shit.
Yeah.
You don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a stomach flat like that. If you've ever been with curvy girls, like, they usually it's very
they're wearing train waist.
Yeah, like they'll be doing all that and corsets and all them things there to make their hips and you know all that the waist go in, but they ain't naturally. Most of them, like regular girls, are not walking around with abs and a big old ass. Like, that's just not.
Yeah. That's true. The body doesn't.
Look at this guy's face.
It doesn't. It's not built like that. It's not built naturally.
That's that damn. That's what that is. That's that.
Is it damn or?
No, he's questioning life right now.
He's questioning. He looks questioning.
He's literally there, like.
No. He's questioning what is he willing to give up to get that. That's what he's questioning. That's what.
Man, I put 100 racks down on that, man.
Exactly.
I can get to flip a cup. I can put my drink on that ass. That's what he's saying.
Exactly. But the thing is, this is what a lot of black guys are. I say simping for. Yeah, simping for in the Instagram. Her Instagram is obviously, as you can imagine,
popping
on fire. So
it must be popping 100%.
Oh yeah, it's on fire.
That's just crazy to me. Like, for me, when I see that surgery look, I just think it's just yuck.
Yeah,
like, I can't.
That's the reason why you guys should have the same taste in women like me. So that after she's popped out 3-4.
No, bro, because there's women who can naturally be curvy. Okay, so we don't need skinny, anorexic, built like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say your standards are on the extreme side of the scale, whereas this lady was on the other side. Because literally, like, if you're like set on, like, is there no compromise? Because what you were saying is, there was no compromise there. So I'm like, most people, they will compromise on it. So I mean,
my range can go from the first lady I showed at Uchemba up to this last lady. That's my range. You know what I mean?
What do you mean that's your range, bro? That's not a range. That's just everyone.
No.
So you like voluptuous women that white matters.
I mean, I can't deal with a skinny woman like your women. It will have to be with some sort of some meat on her. I've never.
Okay, let me ask you guys this question: what type of men get with that type of woman that the Duke showed earlier?
The which one?
The latest one.
Well, the one that you guys consider skinny or slim or what? The one that I said.
No, bro, I'm involved. That she was.
Would you ever see a Pookie and Ray Ray with that type of woman?
Are you Chamber? That first one? Are you Chamber?
No. I was saying the one.
No, the slim one.
The second one, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, the second one. Oh, my bad.
Oh, the slim one.
Wait. I'm confused. Are we talking? One that you said Vincent likes.
Yeah, one that Vincent likes.
That one. What type of man?
I see it with a white guy more than anything.
Okay, even if they do end up with a white guy, what type of white guy?
It's usually middle class.
Oh, middle. Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know if you can really like, where you getting that. I mean, like, that really depends. Like, because a girl who looks like that, it depends on where she's from. Like, it's not like as if because she looks like that, therefore she's middle class, or therefore she's
no. She usually tends to get with the middle class type of white class guy because that's what they pick.
Yeah,
that's what they select.
White guys.
I don't know.
The white dude is 100% selected based on that.
I don't know.
I mean, if you're saying in terms of what the white guy prefers, yeah, I would agree. Yeah. But like in terms of what they'll get with, I think it varies. You can see a girl who's like that, who's with a guy who's kind of overweight. So I don't know.
Nah, she looks more of a model type, so I think she'll be.
I don't think she'll go with the overweight guy.
Yeah, she'll definitely be with
You're telling me you ain't seen overweight guys with models?
Rich guys. I mean, this is where the exceptions come into place. They'll be the guys who, and this is, I suppose, what I was going to say. Unless they really, got status.
Because bear in mind, models in general tend to find it difficult to get in relationships like that are stable anyway. So a lot of them tend to be party goals and they're not stable themselves mentally. So they usually struggle to get relationships in the first place.
But just in general, though,
Vincent,
who would you think you'll see her with more?
Yeah. So Vincent was saying, if you took societal, like if I look at society, I'll just look at my sister as well for an example. Like she's with a middle class white guy, so it's literally, and she looks a bit like
she's slim.
That too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like in society, I would see them mostly with, again, middle class or upper class white.
Would you not also agree that Asian or the upper middle class and upper class Asians, they tend to have women that resemble that type of
but they usually tend to stick to their race, though. I don't see.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but I'm saying women that have the same body type. I'm just talking about her figure.
Yeah, body type. They usually very slim,
Right. That's what I'm trying to establish is that usually. Go ahead.
You're trying to create the black version of the Asian situation.
Exactly. Thank you. This is where I'm going with it. I'm trying
fair
to
enough. I see. My guy's trying to. All right.
I'm trying to be the black British version of Rishi Sunak. That's what I'm trying to establish here.
Okay.
That's all.
But my thing is, what we're saying, Vincent, is this: you're looking at it from a. I think we're saying from a status point of view, fine. But I don't think we don't see it as the woman has to be rail thin for that to be the case. We just think we will have
4'5"
woman. You know what I mean? A curvier woman to represent us. That's what we would like as black people. We can still be upper echelon because our body types are different. Even guys, even us as men are shaped differently. We build muscle mass differently. You know what I mean? Yeah. So to complement that, we have a more thicker woman. That's all.
I don't know. Me personally, I just can't do it.
The 5'5" gets me because I'm just here like.
No, I said 5'9".
5'9". Oh, 5'9".
My tallest I would ever go at 5'11". Sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Bro, how tall are you? If you don't mind asking.
6'3" in shoes.
6'3" shoes. Okay, calm. Oh, that's fair. That's
Vincent.
She went to Hill. She got 6'1", 6'2". Yeah, that's what I see. That status. Like she's tall. I'm tall. Yeah, I'm trying to have tall kids.
I would say, Vincent, don't sell yourself short because you could have all these sort of rigid like regulations. I mean, there's like criteria, but their pussy game might be whack as fuck. So like, you could be a woman.
So I don't know.
Yeah, well, what would you potentially do? Like, try and be a bit more open because there might be women that don't fully fit what you want, but they're very good in bed. So
because it might be 5'8", it might be 5'8.5".
Is that what you're trying to do?
No, I'm not saying you're lowering your standards. I'm just saying you're wearing yourself like you got to sort of have sometimes a bit more of a broader kind of view.
There's a reason why guys generally widen their nets so they can get as many fish as possible. That's the reason. There seems to be like a biological reason why we do this. Whereas you seem so strict. It's like the
Vincent ain't going, bro. He ain't going. We already had this convo with him, and he said, "I ain't trying to get most women. I'm only trying to get the
Vincent, I was gonna say
he's just gonna have to burn through time, bro, because he ain't going."
Yeah, I'm not trying to look for most fish. I'm not like most men. Thank God for that. I'm like Myth Twister is the top 0.001%.
You misinterpret what we're saying here, and we're saying if you have a wider net, you can actually, she may not be 5'9", she may be 5'7", but she meets all these other criteria. You see what I'm saying? What we're trying to say,
the compromise.
There's certain things you widen your net over because that means you're going to miss out on. For example, imagine a woman saying, "I can only date a guy who's 6 foot or above." A guy's like 5'10" and she meets every other criteria. Nope, sorry, you're not 6 foot. It's stupid, isn't it?
A lot of women move like that.
I know we say it's stupid, and it is stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid. It's almost dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional. It's weird. It's a lot of fucking weirdos in this Western
do you think men can set higher standards than women then, or do you think we should all just be realistic?
I mean, men age like fine wine, so yeah, I'd say we can.
So can we say Vincent is allowed to have these standards? He just has to wait a little longer.
I mean, I don't know. It just sounds like
he can get them now if he wants.
Like some eugenic shit. It's like eugenic. It's like mad. It's like you want this Sims 2 character. Like it's
the thing is, like, I mean, I've said this to Vincent before. Like, at the end of the day, it's up to you. If you feel satisfied with that, then fine. My issue would be if Vincent was sitting here saying that, and then on the same side, he's like, "Oh no, these women, blah blah blah." Like, if he's crying about it, but because he seems to be just like, "Yeah, that's what I want, and I'm cool with that." Fair enough. Do I realistically think it's going to be easy to get? No, but that's it. He doesn't want that.
It's not supposed to be easy to get. It's not supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. So fair enough. But you just have to You just have to know realistically what you're setting yourself up for, and if you're fine with that, then go ahead. To each their own, innit? Like, it's fair enough.
I was raised.
He wants almost like the, maybe not the unattainable, but he's very high achieving. Like, you know, he wants maybe what a lot of other guys can't get. He wants to be exceptional. He wants to be that different nigga. You know, I get it.
Which is fair because he's got high standards for himself as well. Like, if you're just sitting there and some guy just, you know, you're like, oh, I should just be regular and she should be perfect, then that's an issue. Of course, the other side of it as well, though, is not only is it a really tiny percentage, those girls, they have to obviously be single and they have to also obviously want to be with you. So even when you add factor that in, it becomes even more like, you know what I mean?
You attract your type.
That's it. Can you get what you want, basically?
Yeah. So I'm guessing I don't want some regular chick neither, but I would say I'm more open to the different forms of irregularities. Like, you know, that women could be different in many ways. Like, not even just I mean, in terms of different ethnicities, different types of looks, different types of mindsets. I'm not just going to settle for a chick that just solely is 5'11" or 5'9" or whatever. This but at the same time, I could still find unique chicks in different ways. But
yeah, bro. I was gonna say our standards are quite, how do you say, they're quite broad. They're not that stringent. It's more a case of, is she short? Is she shorter than me? That's it, pretty much.
Wait, broad or you mean down the drains? I'm just saying, there is a big difference.
No, broad is in like,
standards are not down the drain, man.
Not down the drain. It's more a case of broad is in like, when I say broad, I just mean, is she shorter than me? Am I attracted to her? Is she attractive? That kind of thing. You know, the kind of fit, feminine, friendly kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean? That's it. That's all we're looking for. All I'm looking for. But if you see the type of women I've been with in the past, I would say they're all above a 6 or a 7 for sure.
Well, to your standards, probably to Vincent.
To my standard, exactly. So subjectively speaking, anyway, not objective. Yeah, because obviously you guys are obviously might be into different things. So again, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
but I've never compromised. I've never compromised on the type of women I would get with. As in, I've never been like, I mean, do you know what? I've never been like, oh, I can do better. It's always I've set my eye on this person. I go out to get that person, and then if I, and then I get that.
Yeah. It's like a gamble thing, because some chicks, they might have the looks you want, but then they're lacking in other areas, like their mindset. Like I see all these like exotical West Indian looking chicks, and I'm attracted to them. But I just look at their mindset, and I'm just like, bro, I could never take you to meet my mom. Like,
can I be honest with you? Just adding on to that, right? And I'm really sorry if I offend any West Indian, but I don't know. Maybe I might still just low key, just to a slight degree, might have a bias. But the moment I hear that the girl is Indian, it is just almost like a huge turn off, almost.
Why is that? Why is that?
He's been institutionalized again. We had a conversation, didn't we, on our about a lot of the viewpoints, and I think I've heard a lot of Africans have this anyway about West Indians, especially growing up about you're not meant to go next to all that kind of other stuff. So I think for you, a lot of your stuff is institutionalized between the type of woman you want. I think a lot of it's just been institutionalized by I don't know if it's your mother or whoever, but.
It's definitely conditioning, because you wouldn't like. It's the same thing with anyone. Like, whenever I see people have very, very, very like particular, like, oh, it has to be this. It's like, you didn't get that entirely from yourself, man. Especially if you don't have experience with different types of people, because where did your standard come from then? You know, so it had to have been given to you by someone else for the most part. You might have added in little things, but. Pretty much.
I remember when I was in primary school,
and how would you know at primary school? Come on now, these have to have been like drilled down. At primary school, I would, my standards were just like with a girl, like I don't know if I found a girl if I like, it's like
if they liked you, bro, that was his low standard.
And I found her attractive enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think when it boils down to how Vincent. When it comes to him picking a woman, it's almost as if he has to think, who can I impress my mom with? Who can I bring up?
Like that.
This is eligible, right?
now that I think about it, yeah, it's like that. Also to do my
There's
mom,
more
because
pressure
I've shown
to
pictures
impress.
before in the past, and she would say like, "Why are you liking a fat woman?" and so and so. So then I'm just like, "Oh,
Mad.
she's fat." So then I'm like, "Okay, fine. I need to do yeah, I guess."
We'll see that.
And then other
Guys,
times, you know, show her this picture, and then she is like, "Oh, well, isn't she quite dark? Wouldn't you want
wow.
a woman?" So I'm like, over the years, it's just I guess I don't know.
Well, your mom.
So
is she
she's
like
refined your
colorism?
refined your choices.
We're unraveling the
I mean,
racism.
I
you
don't
see?
know. I'm just saying, like, it just has to be a 10 out of 10 in her. So I'm just like, yeah, I need to bring home a 10 out of 10, or else the family won't permit me to marry her. So yeah.
I
Yeah, I mean,
guarantee.
it's like
What you do all that, and she's still gonna be like,
Family.
you know what? She's
She's
gonna
still
be
not good
something.
enough.
There's gonna be something wrong with
Take
her.
her away.
What is this? Why is her lips like that? Why her nose?
yeah. It's not. Like, I'll be real. It's not a healthy mindset. Like I do understand to an extent when you look at not even just Nigeria. It's just people, upper class people that aspire to procure a lot of wealth and to preserve it, but to just aim for the best. Sometimes they get a bit too caught up. It's almost like dehumanizing.
Superficial.
Yeah,
I know. I've kind of experienced, yeah, because there was actually one girl that I did like when I was in secondary school and you know, when I told my mum and she said, "Oh, where's she from?" I said, "Oh, she's from Jamaica," and oh my gosh, the look of horror on her face, you know. You know, and then my cousin too, who married a Black American, and the way my grandma, she seethed with anger, just like, like why would you want to bring her? And then I asked her, and she said, "Well, you know, their history in that. Would you want that to be in our family? You know, in our future children? Like, do you want us to say, oh, we also have that history as well? Like to her, it has to be completely pure.
Whoa.
That's how they think.
Okay.
Yeah. I do also. I could see it from both sides. Like I could see where they're coming from, and I could see it from the side where people would disagree as well. Like it's just one of those things, man.
Yo, guys, this has been an amazing topic. We've gone everywhere, man. Yeah, this was my first panel on this channel. What a great topic, man. Thank you all for joining the platform. So just to sum up for tonight, let me know what you each think of the simping phenomenon, you know, on this topic in terms of how we enable standards and, you know, attitudes in our women among Black guys. Like, which I believe is more prevalent amongst us than other groups of men. And we've just kind of discussed this right at the end. What do you think about our standards? And is it a simping problem in our community? Like, if you could start, why it matters, would you like to let me know what you think?
Cool. So in terms of simping, it is definitely at an all-time high. And I like the fact that we've defined what simping is, which is a guy who does too much without being reciprocated by the female gender. And I think we do need to set standards. Now, I will be honest and say the standards more is on a characteristic basis, as opposed to necessarily a physical beauty standards within reason. I think if you're not really obese, then I think as long as you like the person and she's not like obese or crazy, I'm cool with it. Everything else is about character, which is up to you as an individual. But yes, as a community, we do need better standards, because right now the standards we have don't even meet those criteria of particularly character. Character can tell a lot about a person as opposed to necessarily physical attributes, which is important. So no, it is something that we definitely need to refine as people and stick to it. Because I think the problem with simps and our culture is that we're not sticking to those standards. We say we like these standards, but secretly in the back chats and the DMs, yeah, we're doing something different. So we need to be able to be disciplined in keeping those standards. That's the key. So that's what I have.
I just want to say why. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you literally just took the last. So I was gonna say right in the DMs and all of that, but yeah, it definitely is a problem in the back of me. I mean, just for example, look at the space that we have online here and the amount of you know, gender war that's going on. It's really because over the years, right, we have pretty much gassed their heads up, and they're like, oh, you know, plus size and you know, I'm thick and this. I don't know. Anyway, you guys know my views, and we literally just discussed it. You know, they think that that they can just come as they are, and then the man will just automatically be attracted to them. But yeah, I'll say it's a problem. Yeah.
That's a good point, Vincent. Thank you. Myth Twist, would you like to add your views?
So in regards to simping, I think it's all been said already. So like, you know, just not having certain standards and whatever. And to me, the real issue of it is just the compromising. That's the big thing for me, because if someone knows, like, if they know there's a precedent set, but they know they can break it and still get what they want, then that's a problem, you know, like, because the standard can exist, but yeah, like I think like White Matter said, and like you have to stick to it, because there's a lot of this kind of like sly simping, as I think of it, or simping in silence, or simping in the shadows. You know, it's like guys are doing it because now where it's coming out a bit, right, where now it's becoming a bit more mainstream to say someone's a simp. Now certain guys are kind of falling back and like, okay, well, I won't be as open about it, but they'll still do it. And it really stems from just a lack of self-worth, because the guys that I know who do this the hardest, their mentality is just they think it's necessary, you know, they think it's just what they have to do. And they think that the guys that don't have to do that are just these special supermen, and they're not like that, you know, he's just lucky, I can't do that. So they don't view what they're doing as a problem, because they just think it's a whole different universe, you know. I guess you kind of see that with like guys who are heavily black-pilled or incels or whatever, you know, they have that type of logic, and that's where a lot of it comes from, is just that self-esteem thing. So I think that it's important for us to have better standards. I would say, just like White Matter said, it's more, I'd say more like characteristic or behavioral than anything, because if that is emphasized, then the looks and all of that, I think like the weight and those types of things, it will follow, and it won't be as bad. Because like for me, a girl could be in shape, but if her behavior's messed up, I ain't going with it. It's just how, you know. So the behavior for me is the number one thing that has to be, we have to have standards on it. I think that's the worst thing we have. So yeah, that's what my thoughts on now.
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you. Angleton, would you like to give your last thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really know how to tackle this, but I just think with the black thing, is that it's a culture that, obviously we've said again, that, you know, that a lot of the households are led by women, and so a culture's kind of formed from that, where there's like this whole thing of worshipping women. And I think because the fathers aren't there, usually fathers sort of, they have a natural role to lead and to instill discipline. And I think like it's in such disarray. There's not a lot of like just sort of direction and leadership, and it's just become very degenerate. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only reason why there's simping. I'm sure there's other factors, such as just living in the West and other things, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think I don't.
You added something to that. That was a good point to make, actually. Yeah, thank you, Mystic Moose. Would you like your final thoughts? Moose. All right.
Hey, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
just to finish off, just my final thoughts anyway. I just feel like similar to what Why It Matters stated, simping in secret is a problem. So it's a case of, also we just got to call it out, as a group as well. Like if you hear of it, or if you see it per se, just call it out. And I think that's the best way to deal with it, per se. Because the more it becomes more out there, I guess, the more people are aware of it, the less it's likely to happen. But again, I don't really, personally, I don't really have much more to add, to be honest, or more to say, to be fair.
That's all right.
Yeah, I won't lie.
Yeah, that's all right. You've given great input throughout the stream. Thanks, Moose. All right,
no worries,
guys. Yes, and even to add to that, or before you go on, yes, I think along with being in secret, I think it's also out in the open when it comes to how we promote the alternative, because Western beauty standards are different to our own beauty standards, and so we try and push that. Oh, look, we accept a lot more from our side of Black women, but then again, it's going too far. So we might have to draw the line on where these standards are, and weight is a big problem. 3 out of 4 Black American women, I mean, we don't have stats here, but in general, they're overweight.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Is it similar here? Pretty much similar?
Not women for both, but 73.9% of Black people are overweight. or obese.
Oh,
is
that's
BMI.
That's a ridiculous margin,
That's a
but
mad
that's
number.
definitely
Wait,
we need to
obese.
overweight,
do you
obese.
Overweight. Yeah.
Do you think it's
Over
due
the
to our
BMI.
identity, or sorry, Duke, sorry, Karen.
No, I already made the point, but go on it.
No, I was gonna say why it matters. Why do you think it's because of our bone density? Because I guess because we tend to have larger bones.
This is it's a bit yes, but no. There has been cultural evidence to suggest the BMI scale is weighted towards a European style structure.
Right.
But when I see black people out in the real world, they've smashed past what I consider that whole your big bone for a black person. So take it as a pinch of salt. A lot of these women, because the Duke said this, black women in the 80s, they were thinner than they are now, that's for sure. So
that's true.
it's not as if black people sort of evolved into a new species over 20 years. So
right.
or 30 odd years. So yeah. Or maybe they have.
You might think, I was going to say, you don't know, man.
I know. Maybe they have, and I just,
Yeah, I mean, we can go on and on with this topic. This is actually a very important discussion to have. We might do another panel on this. Why it matters, you could touch on it on your panel. That would be great too. I mean, this has been a great conversation. You can check Mystic Moose as well and me on Not Your Average Joes. We have similar conversations on this. But man, this was my first panel and it went well, man. I'm glad you guys all came. But
good panel.
Thank you so much.
Hey man, this was good. It was good.
No worries.
It's good to meet all of you guys as well, to be honest.
You too. You too.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
I want a lot of us to UK people to connect. So that's why I love search for Duke, and I want a lot more of us in the space to do these live streams, just connect so we can almost build a community. I think we're missing a community.
True. Very good idea.
So I do like you guys doing this. So big yourselves up, honestly.
Well, man, drop the Instagram so we can follow. And let's do that.
Yeah, we'll add you up, definitely.
Because London. You guys London based as well, or?
Well, I'm in the US, but I'm from.
London. US. Okay.
I'm only here just for studies, and then I'm going to be coming back in a couple of years. So
don't worry, we'll be waiting, bro. We'll be waiting.
Definitely.
Yeah. So just the comment sections, you guys can leave the socials you want to share, then we'll just connect there. That'll be good. But guys, once again, this was an amazing show. Hope you guys can come again and tune in. We would have a blast. One more, yeah.
Yeah, did you? So I don't know if you wanted to do that. You said the Black Matriarchy and the Black Patriarchy, the ADOS versus non-ADOS, and the interracial thing. Are you going to do that on that live stream?
Oh yeah, sure. We could touch on that. Some dangerous topics, but we'll definitely touch on those.
What was that? Because Vincent sounded like he was in a bit of a bathroom or something. What was that?
Yeah, it is.
Repeat the list.
I'm gonna. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the patriarchy and versus the matriarchy, ADOS versus non-ADOS, the diaspora. And so we can touch on all these other topics and they definitely deserve a lot more time. So that was, guys. Thank you for joining the show. Hope you tune in again. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Good night.
Yeah, I've left the Insta in the private chat, by the way. So go ahead.